Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is the place where you get to call in and talk to two trans people about all of your questions relating to trans issues. If you have any questions in that domain, if you are an ally, or maybe you're confused, or maybe you have a question you can't ask a loved one because it's a little uncomfortable or something like that, this is the space that we carve out for you to ask those questions. So feel free to call us in. You don't have to get everything perfect. We're going to do our best to meet you where you're at. I'm going to be steering the ship today, and with me is, of course, the I was trying to think of a fancy indubitable, but I don't know what that means. It's Ben. It's Dr. Ben, everyone.
It's me. I'm here. I'm queer. I'm ready to argue with some folks. It'll be great.
Yes. Honestly, listen, we gotta talk about, I haven't done nearly enough talking about Pride yet this year. Like last week was like the beginning of Pride and we didn't talk about it at all. But honestly, part of the reason is because, do y'all feel prideful right now? I'm proud to be queer, but like it's hard to really sit in that like feeling of like community and warmth and love and pride when it's like we're just constantly getting a nonstop barrage of bad news. The government is starting to occupy all of our major progressive cities. It's getting a little fucking crazy out here and hard to know how to feel about it, but it is Pride. So happy Pride, you fucking queers. I mean, sorry. Hopefully that doesn't get us demonetized. I said that too early. I love you guys. Yeah, what's new with you, Ben? We haven't done a show together in ages, I feel like.
Forever. I know. It's like I see you almost every week because you're backstage, but it's been a while. And you bring some interesting callers, so I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be some interesting conversations we can get into today. I see a couple callers that look like they'll be interesting at least. So if you guys don't know, we do go over a poll every week, usually to cover some sort of like current events or something, though I don't think either this week or last week was particularly current events worthy. It's a little bit hard when you've been doing the show for 4 years because we kind of cover everything at some point multiple times, and it's kind of like, what angle can we take? But we do have...
because the anti-trans topics are always the same. Like it's always sports, it's always bathrooms, it's always healthcare. Like it's always the same things, and the arguments are always the same. They don't have any new points to bring up in any of it.
Yeah, the only thing they ever bring is like the new figure, right? Like the next Riley Gaines or the next whatever. That's the only thing that they bring. But let's check out those polls. So last week's poll, do you think talking more about our personal lives would normalize trans people rather than debate? This is just kind of touching into the notion of like, we've spent a lot, like when we started TACIS, right? It was 4 years ago. It was a very different political environment. And I think it was easier for this show to take on some of the more fringe issues relating to trans rights, or kind of even tangentially related to trans rights if they're not directly related. Like I remember we talked about like otherkin and stuff early on, right? And I think that was easier to touch on because it felt like, at least for the time being, our rights were safe, broadly speaking. Like even, there was obviously discrimination, marginalization, bad things are happening, but it wasn't like it is today. And now I feel like trying to refine our process to be a little bit more focused on what is actually effective at convincing people that our humanity is important and at stake. And basically, from what I've seen, so we have 85% said yes, 15% said no, it's 7.1 thousand votes. Most of what I saw was people basically saying, I think they're both important, but I do think the personal stories, the emotional stories are more compelling at large to people. And I think I probably agree with that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Ben?
Yeah, I think that way too. I think since largely the rhetoric against the trans community is dehumanization, combating that is probably the most effective thing. And since most people don't understand the science, they don't care to understand the science, they care about who they know. Like a lot of the people who end up becoming allies are allies because of somebody in their lives, a family member, a friend, etc. So I do agree that this is probably the most effective way to go about it. Granted, there is a lot of risk involved in that too, because the more vulnerable you become with the society around you, the more access they have to find where you are and
Yeah,
cause lots of things happen. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
absolutely. You put your physical and psychological safety at risk when you're being more open about your life and the things you've gone through, like more directly honest. Like I was telling Lux last week when we were talking about this, I will talk about the things that are relevant to a call or relevant to the trans experience, but I do try my best to boil them down to what feels the most relevant and not actually talk a lot about like what my personal actual experiences are like or like what those
Mhm.
relationships are. I try to not have a nice barrier between the internet and my personal life, but I have been thinking a lot about like maybe I need to be a little bit more like, it sucks. I don't want to be like putting all my personal stuff on the internet or whatever, but if that's what's going to help, like more than what we're doing, then maybe that's worth it. I don't know. But it's something
Yeah.
I think about a lot. I definitely try to find ways to do it in ways that I'm like comfortable and don't feel like is violating a boundary. But yeah, it's hard to know exactly what the balance is. Yeah, but that was last week's poll. So I'm going to put up this week's poll real quick. We'll read it and then we'll put it in chat for you guys to respond to. And then we're going to take a few calls and come back to it later to talk about the results. So this week's question is, does the inclusion of trans athletes necessarily compromise fairness in all sports? So does the inclusion of trans athletes necessarily compromise fairness in all sports? So you guys can vote on that poll. If you don't want to vote on it here, you can also vote on it in the community tab or the post tab on our channel. And until then, we're going to get to some calls. How are you? Are you ready to dive in, Ben?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm thinking Caleb in Illinois seems like the most interesting to me.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk to Caleb. Caleb in Illinois, pronouns are he, him. Considers himself a trans ally, but has questions about the word transsexual. So you are live on Transatlantic with Arden and Ben. What's going on, Caleb?
Hi, Arden and Dr. Ben. Such a pleasure to talk to you guys. I've been a big fan of your show for a really long time, and I love that you are still keeping at it even in these trying times. So I just want to give you big props for that.
Thanks.
But my you're welcome. So my question is that I know a person who is trans. They did full medical transition and went from female to male. And when I was talking to them, they had started to get into art and were starting to make art about their trans experience. And I thought it was just such a great thing that they were starting to do that. So I said, oh, and apologies for my 11-month-old son. Please let me know if he gets too annoying.
You all right?
That's totally fine. He's just playing on with something. But anyway, sorry. So when I commented on that to them, they actually told me that they don't consider themselves transgender. They consider themselves transsexual. And I was kind of thrown for a loop because I had always thought of that as sort of an outdated and even offensive term for a transgender person. So I was just wondering what your perspective on that was and what kind of the difference between those two terms are.
Yeah, the ways that I've seen that term utilized nowadays, you're correct that for the most part it is a pretty outdated term. I think because I guess it invokes some more stigma and is utilized in a very exclusionary way. Like the people that I've seen use the term transsexual are, I don't know if you've heard of like Buck Angel or other trans people like him who believe that you're not a real trans person unless you completely medically transition. He uses the term as
Yes,
a
I
way
have
to
heard
say,
of them. Yep.
yeah. So he uses that as a way to say that he's mentally ill and that he's concerned about his sex and not like his gender and stuff. So I could see where some person who, wasn't like that would still want to use the term, but I haven't seen it used in a more inclusive way. I don't know much about the opinions of the person that you're talking about. But at least that's where I've kind of seen, like, I've had like a bit of an icky feeling when using that word because it's been used for scenarios like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to add on, like, there's part of me that in a purely literal sense actually kind of prefers transsexual, at least for like what I've gone through, in the sense that, and I'm going to caveat this like crazy because I already can tell people will have a reaction to it, that I don't really feel like my gender changed at any point. Like, I feel like my gender has been the same, my gender identity. What I have changed are my physical sex characteristics. And so I kind of feel like there's an argument for that doesn't exclude non-binary people or have gatekeeping that transsexual could be used in. But I will say it's pretty much impossible to use that term and separate it from its history of gatekeeping currently. And that's why I kind of tend to like to use trans, because trans kind of gets rid of the issue where you're going to have those people who have a reaction to transgender, like, oh, you're including me with the people who I think are weird or whatever. And it also includes the people who have like that similar experience to me in medical transition. So I think I just find trans is a better word because it avoids all of that hubbub and just kind of lumps us all together anyway. But yeah, sorry, I want to hear what your thoughts are on all that, Caleb.
No, thank you for interjecting. I guess my thoughts on it were that just from what it sounds more like, and I actually kind of had a weird issue where I didn't want to say the word transsexual because I know it has that negative connotation with the call screener. But it sounds like there could be room for maybe sort of taking back the word. Is that kind of what you were alluding to, Arden?
A little bit. I mean, so I have met a few trans people, very few, who use it in a way where they genuinely are inclusive of like non-binary people and they're not trying to be exclusive, right? But that is very, very rare. I find the majority of the people who use transsexual are using it in a way to be sort of exclusionary to other trans people. There's probably some room for reclaiming it, but I don't know if now is the time that that's going to be the most effective. Like, because generally reclaiming is also about, right, like sort of depowering a word. And I don't really see transsexual being weaponized that much anymore. I almost exclusively see it being used by other trans people in like the circumstances we've said. But that's why it's a different when, trans people will often try to reclaim like the F slur or the T slur, because those are words that still have a lot of power and hurt that are weaponized against us. So those make sense to reclaim. But obviously I'm not like the arbiter of what people do. So like there might be people who that is genuinely like a mission for them. I think there are probably more important things to worry about than reclaiming transsexual right now. But all of that to say, I have met like 2 people who I think use transsexual and aren't being trans medicalists, but the rest of them usually puts up a red flag for me. So
yeah, same.
Okay. No, that's really interesting because I did kind of get that vibe from this person. Not that I can read their mind or anything, but a lot of their stuff did seem to indicate that medical transition is the only kind of transition, which is not something that I support. So maybe I'll have to sit down with him and just have a conversation about it. I did also find it interesting because when I asked them about this, and when I was kind of taken aback by them using the term transsexual, I actually, probably in a fit of just confusion, I just asked them like, oh, what does that mean? And they said that they didn't have to justify themselves to me, which is completely fair. But it feels like if they wanted to kind of reclaim the word, they might have not chosen that particular tact. So I think this has just given me a lot to think about.
It sounds like
Yeah.
this person is maybe pretty defensive. Like, I agree. We shouldn't. We shouldn't need to defend ourselves against, questions all the time. That is bad for somebody's mental state, right? But also,
Sure.
I have a hard time believing any trans person who has like opened the internet in the last 10 years doesn't know about this distinction and wouldn't know exactly what you're kind of getting at by asking the question. So it feels a little dishonest and defensive to me to go that route. But like, there's some truth to like, sure, you don't have to defend yourself against anyone, but a question isn't necessarily asking you to defend yourself.
Right, and especially if the person is an artist making art about their trans experience, you'd think that if it was what they're putting their heart and soul into in their art, they'd be interested in, telling people about the backstory of their art. But I mean, they can do what they want, but it does seem a little odd.
No, that's actually a good point. As an artist myself, I can actually empathize with that point, because art very much is an exploration of kind of the self, and it's kind of interesting. I'm really curious to see what they do with this artwork, because I'm not really sure, just based on our conversation here, where that's going to go. But I'm curious, and I want to just make sure that I'm not saying that like they're going to make bad art or anything like that. But I am just curious to see what their perspective is on it, because it just seems so different than kind of the inclusivity that I've seen amongst the trans community. So. I don't know. I think I'm rambling now, but thank you guys so much for taking this call.
No worries. Thanks for calling in, Caleb. We appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. All right. Good first call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently actually started watching this YouTuber, Luxaria, because she reviews, she's trans, and she reviews a bunch of like old reality TV shows, like stuff that I watched growing up. So I was like, oh my God, this is so relatable. I love this so much. But I think she does kind of consider herself transsexual. And that was one of those times where I was like, weird. I've heard you say things that sound pretty inclusive, but you like that term. And then I've heard other trans people use it before too. But it's interesting.
Yep.
Anyway, we do have more callers on the line we're going to get to, or we'll take one more and then we'll get back to the poll.
Yeah.
What do you think seems most interesting? I mean, the last one on the list, I guess, is probably the most
that one's probably going to be the
spicy.
most spicy.
All right. So we are going to talk to Chuck, no preference on pronouns, from California, wants clarification on trans rights stuff around athletics. So Chuck, you are live on the line with Arden and Ben. What's going on?
Hello. How are you two doing?
Doing all right.
All right.
What's going on?
The call screener said that I was a bit muffled, so hopefully I'm coming in clear now.
Yep. You're all right now.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know enough to really form an opinion on a lot of these issues. I had a few things. The call screener brought up sports, which was, yes, one of the points I touched on. But let's start with this question. Do you feel that misgendering is inherently transphobic?
Inherently is doing some weight there. I think intention matters a lot. Like, I don't think accidents are necessarily transphobic, because that's just an accident. But if you are if you're actively trying to, like, refusing to gender someone correctly, I think that is being disrespectful and transphobic.
Okay, understood. That makes sense. Yes, inherently is weighted. But how about if someone just had a different worldview, and I'm not coming from a religious perspective, so I don't have any of that baggage on me. Agnostic atheist for probably the past 20 or so years. But what if someone used a gender neutral term instead of the person's preferred pronouns? Would you consider that transphobic?
It's the intent. It's the intent there too. Because if someone says, my pronouns are he, him, and you intentionally like don't use those and you use something else, whether or not those are gender neutral, it doesn't matter. You took, like, you heard what somebody said is considered respectful to them, and you decided that didn't matter enough to you, and you did something else. It's like if I said my worldview is that your name is actually Susan instead of Chuck, and I just decided to call you Susan. Would I be disrespectful in calling you that, even though you told me that wasn't your name?
Okay, that's a fair analogy. Cool. Okay.
And it's the same way, yeah. In the same way, even if I called you a gender neutral name, like if I called you Alex, it'd still be kind of rude that I called you a name that wasn't yours, right?
Sure. Briefly, a brief aside, and it doesn't really matter, just curious, do both of the hosts consider themselves trans?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the athletics. Now, in terms of fairness, do you think it's an issue having? Yeah, I don't know a lot, so I'm trying to be careful with the language.
It's all right. Do your best. We understand where you're coming from. So just say the concept, and we'll help you navigate if it's maybe not the most politically correct language or whatever.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take a little pressure off. For a trans woman to compete against biological women in athletics, do you feel that puts the women, which would be the majority of the competitive field, at a disadvantage, or no?
See, here's my question for you, Chuck. What sport are you talking about?
I guess that would matter. Let's just take, I know there was a controversy recently last year. I'm a big boxing fan, so I know they had a trans woman in boxing. Do you feel that kind of skew the advantage towards her?
No. The advantages that would be that person would have. So what gives somebody an advantage in sports? What kind of factors?
Well, with regards to boxing specifically, I would think that bone density, muscle density, the testosterone that they did have when they were growing up, through puberty before they transitioned. And
so tell me, Chuck. So you're on here with a medical doctor right now. Tell me, what is your understanding of how testosterone impacts bone and muscle density, as you're saying?
Sure. By my understanding, it contributes to the way that adult biological men and women differ, in that, the more that during development, the more that hormone that's pumped through your system, it just impacts how the body grows and develops. So
do you think that testosterone, that once you have it, you always have that level of testosterone, or does it change over time?
No, I would believe, obviously, I'm a middle-aged man, so I know it changes over time. However,
and so do changes in testosterone? Do changes in testosterone level impact your body in any way?
Of course.
So here's because this is what often people think about. What people think about. We get this kind of problematic idea that once you've had testosterone, you're always going to have high testosterone, that you're always going to have the advantages of having high testosterone, and that's not actually true. And the data that we have seen through studies through the Air Force, through other sports studies, that not having testosterone, so not having the testosterone that your body is producing, and on top of that, you have additional estrogen and progesterone. So you have additional hormones that are counteracting testosterone. How do you think that would impact somebody's muscle density, for example?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question to be able to answer honestly. Could you be a bit more concise? I'm aware of estrogen and progesterone.
What do those hormones do? Do you know what happens when you have high estrogen and high progesterone?
Not in relation to testosterone. No, I do not.
Okay, so oftentimes when you have higher estrogen, you have feminizing traits, right? So you have feminine fat distribution, you have feminine muscle distribution, feminine like
Sure.
muscle strength and muscle like fiber amount. You have feminine bone growth, feminine bone density. So you get bone density increase with both estrogen and testosterone. That's how we prevent osteoporosis in like all people, which is why if you get a hysterectomy, including the ovaries, or if you get like an orchiectomy, you have to be on some kind of hormones for the rest of your life, because you have to have one or the other in order to have proper bone strength. So we have conflicting things happening, and both of these hormones are involved in this kind of feedback loop mechanism where if you have a lot of one, and in fact, if you have a lot of testosterone, you actually produce more estrogen, which is why you get like testicular shrinking with anabolic steroids. But you have these that are kind of conflicting hormones. And if you're doing something, for example, to suppress your testosterone level, which most trans people do, and especially a lot of sports organizations require you to have the testosterone suppression and have estrogen and or progesterone on top of it. So you are, like, in essence, you are getting a feminized body. So you have a female body type going into those sports. And a lot of sports are going to say that you have to be on these hormones for a certain amount of time before you can compete. So the factors that you're looking at as far as biological advantage, those traits aren't really there. Or is there going to be, some discrepancy in, height, arm size, like arm length? Sure, but you're also going to see that within cis people. You have different people that are different sizes anyway. Like I'm 5'0" with not very long arm reach. And I come from jiu-jitsu where I've competed against people that are way taller than me. And the fact that you have, weight classes, you have skill divisions, you have age brackets, all of those are going to be much more fair than having even sex divided categories. A lot of the things that we attribute to sex and gender are not at all what impact your sport performance, but our society has told us that men have to be superior because they are the stronger sex. It's that narrative that has told us that all of these traits are inherently incompatible, right? Does that make sense?
To a degree.
If I can,
yeah, I do understand where you're coming from, and obviously I respect your knowledge as a medical doctor. I'm, in STEM myself.
Where am I
I'm
losing
an engineer. You? So, hello?
Where am I losing you?
Hello? Oh, okay. I'm going to explain.
Yeah.
I do feel that because testosterone, especially, I'm going back to the developmental stage, the puberty, before most people would even think about transitioning.
Chuck, did you listen to what I said?
I did, and please let me respond.
Do you understand, right, that you can have changes that happen, and that a lot of the changes that matter, even if they happen during puberty, end up going away and not being significant?
They would go away. I understand that.
So your bone structure doesn't necessarily change. But no, Chuck.
No, it's not static. I understand. So that the hormones that you were exposed to later on would, impact how you are when you're competing.
Yes.
That would have an impact. I do understand. Sorry,
I think Arden's trying to get in here.
Yeah, I want you to make a point, Chuck, but
analogy.
Go ahead. But I want to jump in.
I told the screener. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying.
I told the screener, I'm not here to antagonize. I'm genuinely curious, but things have to make sense to me. Before I agree, I guess. Okay.
I understand. You have to
give me your analogy. Give your analogy.
And then yes, my analogy. Oh, so I used to be in great shape in my early 30s, not so much anymore. But I know once I start working out again, because I've been in great shape before, I could, return to that form more quickly than if I had never been in shape, if that makes sense.
But that's not based on you and your testosterone level. That's you and your training, right? Training is a whole separate topic. And women and men, regardless of their hormone levels, if you train, that's your body under training. You're equating training and hormone levels, which is not at all the same.
So I'd like to jump in here. I don't disagree with any of the facts Ben has presented so far. I think we're totally aligned on that. The thing I would maybe add on to this to help kind of bridge the gap is, because we are pointing out that there is not an inherent advantage that cis women, or that trans women rather, excuse me, always have over cis women in sport, right? Maybe sometimes in some domains of sports, because of testosterone puberty, there might be some advantage. We're not saying it doesn't exist at all or ever, just that it's not inherent to us, right? What we're advocating for, or at least I'll speak for myself, what I'm advocating for is I want like objective, evidence-based guidelines on fairness in sport that are applied, fairly to everyone who participates, whether they're cis or trans, right? So I do think it's a little frustrating to me when I see someone like Caster Semenya, who is, by all intents and purposes, a cis woman, a runner who had high testosterone levels, who gets disqualified because she had naturally high testosterone levels. That kind of sucks. But also, if we're going to have objective criteria that include and exclude some trans women, they should be applied evenly to everyone, right? I think that would be a fair sort of way to structure women's sports, including trans women. So I think the objective guidelines are really important. But like also, there's a lot more evidence we have to learn about this, but it's really difficult for us to learn anything about this when we are entering a world where there are policies that advocate for blanket bans on trans participation in any sort of athletic events. It is like one of the main charters of the Olympic Charter, one of the main points, that sports are a human right and participation should be free and fair to everyone, right? So I think if we're going to come up with some sort of criteria that's going to exclude people, it's going to need to apply to everyone fairly and not just blanket ban trans people, because it's a little inconvenient to think of a more complex, nuanced solution to this problem.
No, I wouldn't advocate for a ban across the board. That's not everyone should be able to participate in sports.
Yeah,
and with an even playing field. I can totally agree with that. So we're getting closer. Just bear with me. We're getting closer, to agreement. Okay, fair enough. And I know you guys probably won't like this one, but this is my final point, and then I'll step down and let you get back to the poll and other callers. Just because, a little preface. Gender is a social construct in your guys' perception. Is that correct? Gender.
Yes.
Not sex.
There's kind of gender kind of means multiple things, but yes, one of the uses is that. So that's fair.
Okay. Would you agree that race is also a social construct?
Yes, but they are very different social constructs.
Very differently.
I understand. Slippery slope fallacy. Hopefully I don't step in it. But Rachel Dolezal, are you familiar with her?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
What if I agree it's kind of silly, but if both are social constructs, by what criteria, by what measure could you say, oh, she's silly, she's not actually a black woman because she wasn't, doesn't have that background, that DNA wasn't born that way?
Really easy.
Well, hold on.
As opposed to...
I know. And racism isn't about the DNA. Like no one's checking people's DNA when they're being racist.
No, I was just saying that her parents were Caucasian. Basically, is what. Yeah, not to analyze the DNA, but you have two Caucasian parents and you're Caucasian, obviously. So why shouldn't she be considered rather a black woman if that's what she identifies as and how she feels, and having a black spouse and whatever her background that got her to that conclusion?
She doesn't engage with society, and society does not engage with her as a member of that community. Like, she can't claim that as something that she has, because she's not going to have the same experiences.
Well, I also think that like, just because two things are social constructs doesn't mean they're anything alike. Money is a social construct. Our concept of time is socially constructed, right? Like, that doesn't mean that you can like identify as time variant or whatever, right? That doesn't make any sense. And when we're talking about race, I also am hesitant to step too deep into this because I think we're two white people sitting here, and it's a little, we're definitely going to be missing probably some key nuances on this topic. But like, I think race is like, generally a like political category that is put onto someone based on their phenotype to a certain extent, like the color of their skin, or like their ethnicity, like their country of like heritage. And those aren't things you can identify into. Those are just facts about you. So when we're talking about gender identity, it's well established in both the literature and in philosophy that gender and sex are not the same thing, that gender identity is not just a social construct, but specifically the intersection of that social construct with like a durable psychological sense of self. So we're talking about something that has to do with an internal evaluation of how you feel compared to like a political category you're put in based on your phenotype. Like those things aren't even close to similar. So it doesn't, they're not the same thing.
And we're also talking about like categories where, never mind. This might get too into the weeds, and I know we have a call coming later similar to this.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it there.
I did want to add one thing to this conversation before you go, Chuck, about sports, because I think this is really important. When we're talking about fairness for women in sports, something I've been thinking a lot lately that I haven't been talking about, it's really frustrating that we spend so much of this time talking about trans people and trans women and what we're going to do about trans women in women's sports. Like, aside from the issue of, that's like basically ignores trans men a lot of the time, as is the case in most of these political arenas regarding trans rights. But also, it completely ignores like the actual issues that are affecting women in sports, like unequal pay. We're talking about unequal funding. We're talking about like eating disorders. We're talking about being like sexually harassed by coaches and doctors. There are so many issues that women in sports face that are pertinent, that actually lower their quality of life, that make access difficult, that have nothing to do with trans rights. And the right has so successfully whipped up a fear around this issue that's convinced people this is the big threat to women's participation in sports, when it's not even fucking close. Like, trans people are not only such a marginally small portion of society, but we are a even more vanishingly small portion of the athletic community. And to pretend that we have some sort of gargantuan impact compared to these actual issues, the second somebody comes to me and says they're concerned about trans women in sports, I know for a fact that they don't actually care about women's sports, because there are a million issues that are so much more pressing and important that if they actually cared about women's sports, they would be talking about. But they're not. They're talking about trans people. So that was just all I wanted to add to that.
Okay, let me end with this. I hope you're not putting me in that bucket. I have a niece that I love dearly, who, loves to play soccer. So it's not like I don't care about women's sports or women in general.
Chuck, do you watch sports?
Of course.
Do you watch the women's divisions of those sports?
Yes, because like I said, I'm a big boxing fan, and the women's boxing has really come a long way. So, like for example, last year when they had the Tyson fight, the best fight on the card was Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. That was, that they stole the show. So I give it a fair shake.
So I will give you that. I will grant you that then.
Cool. Okay, fair enough. Thank you guys for obliging me, answering my questions, and keeping it respectful. I appreciate you.
Thanks for calling in, Chuck. Call back when you have another question. See you later.
Yep.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's I've been doing a lot of research on pretty much all of the major talking points we have. And when they're like, oh, this is a concern because of trans people, being like, what are the actual concerns with all these issues, and trying to do a lot more research into those, because it's been really frustrating to and I listen, Chuck was mostly I think good faith, just had some questions, and so I'm not trying to cast aspersions on him for this, but it is it's something people bring up a lot when I'm like, I don't. It makes me wonder how much you're actively thinking about this. But
Yep.
also, we didn't even talk about. He mentioned a man in women's boxing, which was also, I'm assuming, a reference to Aman Khalif, who was not a trans woman, by the way, not a trans woman. There's no evidence of that at all.
I mean, in all fairness, there was a man in women's boxing, but that was the trans man that nobody cared about.
Oh,
so
there you go. Yeah, right.
but nobody cares about him.
God damn it. So irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I also feel very always apprehensive talking about the race thing as a white person, because I know I overextend probably my reach to race as a comparison to gender, um, in terms of like oppression dynamics. And it's something I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious of as we're getting into the conversation. And yeah, that's another one where I'm like, I know if like when I'm on with Jovan, he is so good at handling those things. And it's like because there's so much lived experience there that I just don't have, to tap into that conversation. So
Yep.
all right, we have a few more callers left. We're going to talk about the poll. Sorry, guys. So let's see where that poll is at. So the poll was, does the inclusion of trans athletes necessarily compromise fairness in sport? And it looks like we have in our audience 85%, 86% say no, and 14% say yes, which I think is really funny because I worded this very specifically to be like kind of a philosophical trap of saying, do they necessarily compromise fairness in sport? And so I think this one should be the easiest no ever, because it's pretty obvious that it's not necessarily, right? Like everyone's going to acknowledge that there's trans women like me out there who I am like slightly overweight and not very energetic or fast or capable or coordinated at anything at all. And there's no sport that I would be better at than most of the like least qualified women in those sports. So that's all I'm saying. It just kind of seems so silly that someone would say yes to that when it was like the easiest philosophical thing. But whatever.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts
I feel like
on
we
that?
don't need to expand too much on this because we just did in this last call.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it does not necessarily compromise fairness.
Yep. All right. We have a bunch of callers, so let's get back to them. We'll be putting up the punishments in chat probably throughout one of these calls coming up. Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Let's see. How about we talk to Sam in North Carolina? They, them, looking for guidance on questioning one's gender. So Sam, you are live with Arden and Ben. What's going on?
Hey there, guys. How's it going?
Doing all right. What's up?
Yeah.
I am kind of questioning some things, and I guess I was wanting to call to see if maybe both of you had come across something similar in your journeys, and maybe if you had like some suggestions or thoughts on a few things, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I will try to make this really quick. I grew up in a pretty oppressive cult environment, but even during that, I never really gelled with my gender. I just kind of assumed I was a tomboy because I was raised in large part by my dad. But I've never really felt AFAB, I guess, feminine, quote unquote. But after my dad married my stepmom, she was very pushy about like, oh, you should dress more feminine, you should do this, you should do that. But I always felt like I was an imposter, I guess. Like people could tell I was wrong or like didn't belong in those clothes or in that body. I don't really know how to explain it better than that. It just felt like being an imposter in my own skin. And like, I would always threaten mom that like if I ever got married, I'm wearing pants and sneakers, and she'd like get mad at me or whatever. But because I was raised very religious and very sheltered, thought, well, I guess I'm just not a very feminine person, but I'm stuck in a female body. Because, like, church always tells you God doesn't make mistakes or whatever, which, okay, not opening that can of worms, but I just felt like I didn't have a choice or a way to deal with it. But then a few years ago, I met some really awesome people, and I started deconstructing, and I've kind of gone like atheist agnostic, and it kind of gave me the freedom to start exploring a lot of the feeling that I've been having for all of these years. So I leaned into non-binary, and the people around me, my friends, not my family, they don't know, but are very respectful of that, which I really appreciate. So I just kind of leaned into non-binary, not really a guy, not really a girl, just sort of my own eldritch being in the corner type of thing. And started going to therapy for cult stuff and all this other stuff. Started making progress, and during that time, I've really noticed that when people, if I was out and about, because I usually wear a binder or something, when people would use masculine pronouns for me, oh, hey, whatever. One time, this one lady at Walmart was like, young man, and I was like, damn, I'm on cloud nine for a month. But it felt really good, whereas being called miss or ma'am or whatever felt like petting a cat against the grain of its fur. It's just kind of always felt wrong.
Yeah.
But when I think of and so I started thinking, I was like, well, what does that mean? Because when I think of having top surgery, I'm all for it. I wish humans had a body swap program, lob these things off and give them to somebody who's a trans woman, and we can swap parts. It'd be great. But since bodies don't work that way, I thought about that, but then I was like, I don't necessarily have a pull for bottom surgery. I'm almost 40, so I'm fine, I guess, with it right now. But I don't know if that's just me kind of leaning between things. Okay, you felt comfortable enough to be non-binary, but now what if it's trans mask? You're just getting there in baby steps.
Same. Yeah, no. You have basically my transition story. So the things you're describing are gender dysphoria and gender euphoria. Plain and simple. Doesn't matter, all the context surrounding that, and if you feel like it's more non-binary or trans mask or trans man, that is what it is. It is gender dysphoria and gender euphoria that you are experiencing. And the fact of the matter is, as much as maybe you'd want me to say this is your prescribed label, here's the label you can go with, here are the things you need to do to have that label, I can't do that for you. It sounds like,
right,
you have figured out a lot of things that you like and a lot of things that you don't like, and you figured out some areas where you might have room to change your mind on things, and you don't have to do any particular things to wear any of those labels. You can be, if you feel like trans mask is the label you want to use that best describes you, then wear that one. If you think non-binary is a great label, wear that one. If you feel like trans man is a great label, wear that one. But if you don't want bottom surgery, you don't have to get bottom surgery to be a trans man. I'm probably not going to get bottom surgery. There are a lot of people who identify as trans men that aren't even considering testosterone. There's a whole spectrum of transition that people go through and don't go through, and it's all about your body, what risks you're willing to take, what benefits you're looking to get, and it's all up to you. But wherever you fall on the spectrum, you deserve to be there, and you don't have to question yourself on it. You can change your mind at any point, but none of that means that you can't wear any one of those labels that you've kind of thought through.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just, there's not a lot I have to add to Ben. I was just that, we're pretty reticent here to ever, say, yes, you're on the right path, or no, you're on the wrong path, or anything like that when someone comes in with a question like this. The advice we often give is usually to just like, and it kind of sounds like just a continuation of what you've already done, which is just keep trying things out. And when you're like, oh, that one feels good, and it's leaning more a direction, that's information for you, right? Like for me, like getting laser hair removal was something that I was like, wow, that makes me feel so much better in my skin. Um, and I don't think that that made me a woman. And I don't think that I didn't do that because I was like, this is what I have to do as a woman. But I was like, this is something I want. And I'm thinking I might feel like a woman. And it kind of came together after the feeling and how I responded to it. It was like, oh, yeah, no, this is the path that I'm on. I think it's looking for the box to put yourself in is always going to be a mistake, because the problem is these boxes, we intentionally don't draw hard lines around them, right? Because we're like, we acknowledge that everyone's experience is a little different and that not everyone is the same. And so we intentionally don't draw hard lines around the boxes. And yet people are, almost every trans person I know goes through what you're going through, Sam, where they go, but which box do I belong in? And it's like, well, you're kind of already standing in one, you just aren't really paying attention
Yeah.
because you're trying to like see the hard line, and the hard line just isn't there. So yeah, I think it really is like a journey of self-discovery and self-determination. It's not going to be like an objective box that you're going to be like, oh, I've checked all the things, now I'm in this one. Now I can stop my search, you know?
Yeah. I guess I just wasn't sure if like if you do like, or if I like you general, not you specific, but like if I did start to lean, like if masculine start to feel grammar more comfortable, like if that's, I guess, negating being non-binary, like I guess that's where my brain kind of gets hung up, because
No,
it's
you
like,
can
well,
be
then you're
both.
not really one or the other. But then, like you said, like drawing lines, doesn't really help much. But at the same time, I guess because because of how I was raised, it was very, you're very rigidly in this one column and that's it. You don't have any other choice. You're just right here. And so now that I'm kind of taking those restrictions off the sides, it's like, oh my God, now there's like all this shit to deal with. I don't know like how
See,
to deal with
that's,
all the choices. Like
I
if you've
think
seen
that's your
the
journey.
Sabrina the teenage. Oops, sorry.
No, I interrupted you. I was just saying, I think that's your journey to deconstruct right there, Sam, is that you're a person who grew up with those really rigid roles, and learning to accept that, even though it's a little uncomfortable, because naturally humans really like boxes to put ourselves in. We like communities to be like, this is my tribe, so I don't feel quite as alone. That those boxes are largely artificial and imaginary. And so I think that sounds like more of what your goal is, to kind of just let yourself be you, and to kind of just decide where you think that puts you, like somebody could have the exact same experience of womanhood as me, but consider themselves like non-binary trans femme. I don't think that would make them invalid in their identity, or like substantively different in like how they experience or express their womanhood. But I don't consider myself non-binary, and I think that's okay. Like we're drawing the lines where it makes sense to us based on our understanding of these boxes and where they were drawn around us as kids. So I think that's, I don't know, it's totally okay to not have the good box, It's nice.
Yeah.
Listen, we all love box, but with the one we get put in is the question.
Yeah, and I think you'll feel more free once you kind of like let that piece go. And as a very type A person, putting myself in the box of type A, but as that type of person, I'm very I need a lot of that rigidity, and I've had to learn over the past several years to not do that to myself, and it has been a lot more freeing, and it's helped my anxiety in a lot of ways too, because it takes away some of those layers of, am I good enough to be doing this thing? Well, you're there and you're doing the thing, so I guess so. I guess you're doing the thing. So stop being so hard on yourself, because you probably belong where you do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
If you have the time, may I ask one more question?
Go for it.
I don't know if if either of you come from like super religious backgrounds as well.
Yep.
I'm still close with my folks. I love them a lot, but they are also still very religious. They don't know about a lot of the changes I've gone through. I think it would break my mom's heart if she found out I was agnostic, because she like sobbed over the phone at one point just about me potentially losing my faith. So gender stuff, I know, would cause a rift. And I guess that, with everything going on right now, kind of terrifies me when it comes to trying to embrace myself or how I feel. And I guess I was wondering, like, if either of you had any, like, thoughts on
Yeah.
or encouragement or ideas, I guess, as far as that goes.
I think Arden and I both come from that kind of background. And it sucks. Like, there isn't an
Yeah.
easy answer to how to handle it. You have to figure it out on your own. But I know for me, it came down to, like, I am who I am, and that's not going to change. Like, so no matter what, like, I am this person. And I can either, put myself in the closet and keep other people happy and be miserable myself, or I can embrace who I am and just know that there's going to be a conflict. But at the end of the day, that conflict is not my fault. Like, it's like, I mean, be respectful about, like, don't be, trying to start things. But, like, if they have a problem with you being you, then that is for them to deal with. And you shouldn't feel bad about them having to deconstruct that piece, because, like, they still have a lot of work to do on their end. You just have the choice of, are you going to have that conversation? How are you going to have that conversation? And are you going to, like, do you want to keep that relationship, or do you want to put up boundaries and, like, walk away or have limited, like, connection with them? And a lot of that will kind of depend on how they respond, and, like, kind of their perspective as well, and what they're willing to give to this relationship as well. And I don't know your exact situation, but for me, I do still talk with my family, but it's way less, and I do set up boundaries. We do not talk about anything gender related. We don't talk about it. So I don't know if Arden has additional thoughts.
I mean, I don't know. I always struggle to give advice on this topic because I don't think I'm like most people. I don't particularly value blood relationships in some sort of special way. Um, I think obviously I want a relationship with my parents and my family, but I am more than happy to cut off a relationship that is proving too difficult or where boundaries are being violated regularly. So, um, including those of my family. And I've done that for at least my father's side. I'm still in very good relationship with my mom and my stepdad, but um, yeah, I think it's I know it's really something that you have to decide for yourself. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it, and there's not a lot of good advice other than, like, I think if you have a therapist, talk to them a lot about, like, exactly what your goals are in having, conversations, and, like, what you're looking to achieve, what kind of ground you're willing to cede, maybe giving them time to adapt, or what ground you're not willing to cede, um, on, like, misgendering you and things like this. So yeah, I don't know. It really is. It's such a deeply personal thing. It's really hard to know exactly how to direct someone in that way. I think you really have to take stock of what you want and what boundaries you're willing to draw. I now I'm repeating myself, but um, yeah, that's kind of my only thoughts on that.
Thank you. I really appreciate you both talking with me and going over this. I know it was kind of awkward questions, and I never wanted to put you guys in the spot of, like, here, define my gender for me. But so I hope I didn't feel grammar. I hope I didn't make either of you feel that way, but I really appreciate the guidance that you've given.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, that's what we're here for. I'm always happy to do our best. But yeah, obviously, there's not a lot we can do to help with you figuring out exactly how you feel. But no, I'm glad you called in. I'm glad we were able to provide some helpful thoughts. Yeah, thanks for calling in, Sam.
Thank you, guys. I hope you have a good day.
You too. Bye now. All right. Quick reminder, we have 4 calls left on the line. I did close the lines, but we're going to get to everyone else who's there currently. Also want to remind you guys to hit the like button and the subscribe button. It is totally free and it helps the channel a lot. It helps the algorithm massively. It also shows your allegiance to the woke mob, the woke atheist cult, the trans mafia, whatever you want to call it. It is a good way to show your allegiance. So please hit that like button.
Yep.
And we're going to be reading super chats at the end, $5 or more, and include your hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Ben to send a vote. Whoever gets the least amount of votes has to spend 2 minutes defending the positions in that poll, which I put in chat during that call, which are bottoms must duel for tops. So we're bringing that one back. Trump bans mom hugs at Pride. So, when you see those moms, this one's doing the worst, but it's my favorite one. So I'm kind of sad about it. When you see those women at Pride that says like free mom hugs. Yeah, no more of that. Trump says no more. Pride is good, but no more mom hugs. And then the woke agenda cancels rent. So, hashtag vote for Zoran Mamdani for New York mayor. Just kidding. I kind of. Anyway, we have callers. I think we're going to do 10-3, 4-4, then 5-5, and 1-1. Does that sound good to you?
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
Sounds good.
All right, let's talk to Jack. We're bringing back the sports conversation today. Let's go. I'm talking to Jack. Him in Florida says, is for trans people existing, but against trans folks in sports. So, Jack, you are live with Arden and Ben. Let's get into it.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Doing all right.
Yeah, tell us where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I think that depending on when a person transitions, like if they have gone through puberty, I think that has a very real effect on like musculature and like lung capacity. Like let's just say for swimming, for instance, like if there's a person that transitioned from like man to woman and they went through puberty, I feel like they're going to have an advantage over other swimmers in Olympic swimming than
so
somebody
Jack,
that didn't have.
You mentioned lung capacity and muscle mass. Where are you pulling this from? Any particular paper? Did you do any studying before this, or you just think because this is what your brain came up with?
I mean, you don't think that there's a difference in musculature between boys and girls?
Can I
Jack,
just really quick?
Yeah,
I just would want one interjection that I think might help. Do you think, Jack, when you're saying this, that is a universal fact that anyone who goes through male puberty 100% of the time is going to have better musculature, better muscle capacity, whatever? Or is it maybe statistical, like there is a trend there, but it is not universal?
I'm saying it's a trend there. Like
Thanks.
Yeah.
And where did and I'm asking you as well, where did you get this information that there is a trend there, or are you just making a statement based on your own intuition?
I mean, that's what I learned in school. That
did you what year in school did you learn that? Do you think that like 8th grade education, high school education makes you an expert on the topic?
I wasn't claiming to be an expert on the topic. I'm just.
But you are having, but you are having an opinion. You are having an opinion that would, like, do you think that trans people should not be allowed in sports? Is that your argument?
Well, sure. I don't think that trans people should be allowed.
Okay. So here's the thing, Jack.
Men to women. Right.
So here's the thing, Jack. Within that, with that claim, you are making a claim to impact the world around you, to get a whole class of people banned from a sport or banned from an activity because of what you learned in high school or what you learned in middle school. Is that a good way to make decisions?
Also based on a trend, not a universal fact. So you're banning potentially a lot of people who this fact isn't even true for.
Okay, so I think.
Or do you think we need a higher standard of evidence before we ban people from sports?
I think if the sports community does not want male to female trans people in women's sports, then I think we need to respect the wishes of the male of the community.
What if that request?
Except that a lot of sports. What about a lot of sports that do allow trans people to compete? Do you think that they should reverse their decision because of your opinion?
Oh no, I mean, to each their own. Like if they want to let them compete, then let them compete. I'm just saying this is my opinion.
I also just want to you're saying if the sports community thinks that, but wouldn't you agree, Jack, that what the sports community thinks is kind of irrelevant? It really should come down to the facts, the empirical evidence of there being an advantage, or if there's not an advantage, of there not being an advantage.
Okay, so are you saying that there isn't some kind of difference?
Jack, we're asking if you care. Do you care if the information you believe is true?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm asking. I'm trying to get educated on the subject. So, would you guys say that there is no difference between boys going through puberty and girls going through puberty? I'm not sure where.
So I would love for Ben to fact check anything I say, because Ben is an actual doctor. But so nobody is denying that. Again, I really need to emphasize that there is statistical trends, right? That people assigned male usually end up going through testosterone puberty, and that usually has a host of effects that could be relevant to an athletic sport, right? I don't think anyone's denying that exists. What trans people are saying is that to ban trans people as a whole, blanket ban an entire class of people from a sport because of some fact that might not even apply to them, is unfair and unethical. And instead, we should have objective criteria for being considered a competitor in a given sport that apply evenly to trans and cis people, meaning that trans women will sometimes, yes, compete with cis women in sport, because we don't universally have an advantage against women in sport, and that sometimes trans men can compete with men in sport. We're trying to point out that having this common sense, intuitive, but men are bigger and stronger, so trans women can't compete mentality is very Neanderthal, very tribal. It's not actually rooted in anything empirical or actually with the intent of curing an issue in sports, right? Because as we pointed out earlier in the show, there are many more issues affecting women's sports, affecting accessibility, affecting their ability to perform well, that have nothing to do with trans people.
Are you guys looking for, or do you guys have free space?
Hello?
Jack?
Jack, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I was on mute for a second. Yeah, so I can get behind that.
That's the trans activist position then. The inclusive trans activist position in sports. So you're saying you are no longer against trans people in sports. You're now for trans inclusion in sports. Is that what you're saying?
I'm against somebody that has somebody that has gone through puberty and it has affected their
Jack, go back and watch earlier parts of the call. Okay, so Jack, you're not well educated in science, and I can tell. So we're going to talk about that. So a lot of the changes that you have in puberty, right? So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the previous caller. Do you think that once you have testosterone in your body, that it stays the same level your whole life?
No, I heard you say that to the previous caller.
Right, and there are changes. Right? Are you aware, Jack, that there are changes to your body when you don't have a high level of testosterone?
But it doesn't revert back all the way. There is an advantage.
No, but here's the thing, Jack. Here's the thing, though. A lot of the factors that are irreversible in puberty don't matter. And that's what I'm trying to communicate. there's a lot of fixation on certain biological features that are not sex exclusive, right? Like there are women, cis women, with higher testosterone levels, and even those without as high testosterone levels that are just have the genetic predisposition to be taller, to have greater muscle mass. Some
Sure,
women
but
like they train
statistically,
earlier
that's
on in childhood and
the
develop
exception.
differently, because you know what else
Right.
increases testosterone? Training, weightlifting,
Right.
those
Yeah.
things.
I
So
understand that, but
so
I'm
here's
just
the
saying, like, if you hold on, hold
do you
on. If
actually
you have
understand, or are you just
a,
saying that to further the conversation? So I'll let you talk.
I'm just trying to have a conversation. Like, I'm not trying to be rude. I don't know
No,
why
but Jack, here's
you're
the
being rude to me.
problem. No, you're not. You're like, you can say that you're not trying to be rude, but here's the thing. Like, you're talking with somebody who has done the studying, who has read the papers, who has like studied more than a decade in like biology and medicine. And then you're coming in here and saying, but my 8th grade education told me this thing. And you're making a decision based on intuition, based on a faulty premise. And so I'm trying to give you that extra information so that you can learn from it and expand your perspective. But you seem unwilling to do that.
I think you're just trying to get like a viral moment here or something.
No,
I'm just trying to
not
have
at
a
all.
conversation.
Not at all. It's because when someone actually wants to learn, they come in and they say, I don't understand this topic very well. Can you educate me? That's what an honest person would say. Or if you say, hey, here's my opinion. Like, is there anything wrong with this? And someone says, yes. Here are the things
I
wrong
am
with
doing
it.
that, but now you're saying that I'm
You're doing it to an
dishonest.
extent,
So
but Jack, you're still going back to your point that you learned something in school, and don't you think that people who go through puberty have, like, I'm telling you what the actual in-depth truth is, like the real like meat of the
I was
issue,
trying
and
to
then you're going back
talk
to
about a point that you brought up. You brought up that weight training and exercise can increase testosterone naturally. That there are some women that have
yeah. So my
that are
point is,
taller than
you
some
you
men.
took you took a topic, you took
All right, yeah, all
something,
right,
and you made it very, very one-dimensional and black and white. And I'm telling you, it is not that black and white. Let's look at it a bit differently.
okay,
And your response is
right,
to
yeah,
still take it
and
back
then
to
you
that
were
black and
rude,
white.
and then you made a bunch of assumptions.
Hey, Jack,
This is why nobody takes you guys seriously.
Jack. Okay. Just to be clear, Jack, I want to make it so super obvious that we walked you through at the very beginning of this conversation, you agreeing that there shouldn't be blanket bans, and then you immediately, like Ben pointed out, went back to, well, oh, he dropped. So this is for the audience and anyone else in Jack's position, I guess. I have 2 points to make. We walked him through and got him to agree to the trans inclusive model for inclusion in sports. And he said yes, and then immediately went back to his first statement again. So I think that's where the frustration is coming from, Jack. But also, the reason we're getting heated over here is because we're living in a world where trans people are being denied their rights to equal employment, right? Employers can discriminate now because of what Trump has done. We're talking about not being able to, athletes get their livelihood from sports, by the way, so not being included is also a detriment to their livelihood. We're also being villainized. Trans people are getting beaten and harassed by strangers on the media all the time now for being trans. We're existing in a world where you are coming here as a person who doesn't have this information, bringing this topic, right? And then sticking to the ignorant worldview that we had you agree wasn't sufficient in the first like 5 minutes. And then you go right back to it. So you have to understand why there's frustration when you are really relying on the most basic misunderstanding of these concepts compared to what Ben was trying to bring you to, which was the more nuanced, complex understanding of biology that you can't just boil down to if you go through male puberty, you are automatically Superman and are going to like clothesline every female athlete in every competition. It just doesn't make sense.
Right. And like the whole idea that where we get our information from is important. And if you think that just you coming up with an intuition about, your opinion and then saying, well, I'm not trying to make any decision, I'm just having my opinion. Well, you're coming onto a show that is publicly aired about an issue that, like Arden was saying, is impacting people's lives. Like, this isn't just your opinion anymore. Like, at some point, like, you are making a statement, and your claim should come from a place of being informed. And you should care. You should care that your information is well informed.
Yeah, it's also so laughable that he says this is why no one takes you guys seriously, which let's not even open the can of worms of what that means. You guys, meaning what, all trans people are just so radical and detached that you can't get on board. When literally what Ben was trying to do was have the least radical version of the conversation. You came in with the black and white answer, male puberty equals automatic advantage across the board. Ben was the one who was trying to have the nuanced conversation of the problem with that mentality. To say that that's why no one takes us seriously, no. The reason no one takes us seriously is because there has been a very carefully cultivated misinformation movement to make trans people seem like the most radical freaks for actually trying to follow the science and to come up with solutions for you guys, by the way, because this isn't for me. If it was our way, we were fine just competing along the systems that already existed, but y'all were the ones who freaked the fuck out. We're trying to develop systems that allow us to be accommodated and to participate in society while also acknowledging any effect that biology could hypothetically have on athletic performance. So it's really laughable to me that the reason we're so not taken seriously is because we actually care about trying to have a nuanced dialogue and finding actual solutions and aren't willing to just say, man is adult human female, or a woman is adult human female. Men are always better. Like, it's not radical or unserious to actually look deep into these issues and try to find solutions to them.
And to ask for a citation or ask where you got your information from. Like, that makes, I'm unreasonable because I asked you where you got your information from.
Yeah, I'm even fine operating on, like, if you were just honest, Jack, and had said, to be honest, it's an intuitive conclusion I came to based on things I learned in high school. Like, at least then we could operate from that perspective. But, you know. All right, we are going to be finishing up these last 3 calls. I guess we will take 4 next. Even though I do absolutely hate this discussion. I'm so sorry, Sabrina. She, her in Washington wants to talk about transracial identities. So, Sabrina, you are live on TACIS with Arden and Ben. What's going on?
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. Can I give a personal positive trans sports story, since there have been multiple calls about sports?
Yeah, go for it.
So I've been playing pickleball for more than 10 years, and I think if someone from, like, an outer perspective looked at, like, my record, they might, like, compare me to, like, Leah Thomas, where 10 years ago when I played in a tournament, like, and I was playing in the men's division, like, I didn't do well. And then a couple years ago, after transition, playing with my cis female friend, we got gold. But I think, like, where there's, like, the nuance and everything is, like, over the course of 10 years, like, I got better as a player. It's not because I then went to, like, the weaker division or whatever. And then following up after winning gold, and yay, trans people can win gold medals. The next year we went up to, like, the next skill level and we got slaughtered. So yeah, I feel like it's a positive story where like, there are men that I can play one-on-one and just cream them. Even though they're way stronger, they can slam the ball at me, they can run way faster, but because I can place the ball a lot better than they can, because I've been playing for so many years and I've worked so hard, that's why I can beat them, even though they're way, way stronger. And there are obviously tons of men who would destroy me if I were to try and play against them.
Sure. Although I always find it frustrating that the positive trans stories have to somewhat involve us not being
losing.
Like, yes, losing. Like, I don't think that's it. I kind of, anyway, let's get into your topic, which is about transracial identity. So why don't you tell us your thoughts?
Sure. Okay. So, I feel like I have very, very, very rarely heard any kind of like, I guess, like nuanced or good arguments with this, and it always comes up with like relating to transgender issues, where like this has been something personal to me for a much, much longer time. I grew up. I don't want to say where I grew up for like privacy reasons, but I grew up not in a white culture, or not in a predominantly white culture, and so sorry, I'm trying to get all my thoughts collected. I think transracial is not the right term. Like, one, because it already means something else, or at least it used to. And then two, I think it makes sense that like I equate race kind of like to sex, where I think there's some missing term that we don't have yet that would be gender. And like maybe you could say like culture would be that piece there. But we don't have the language for it. And I think we haven't had someone come along that is like the Rosa Parks that is able like for like to be taken seriously. I think like Rachel, whatever her name is, like was probably like the closest thing, but she wasn't, it's not like she grew up around Black people and lived around a lot of Black people and then felt like that was part of her identity.
Right, but
and so
there's a
that's where I feel
difference
like
here, Sabrina. There's a difference here
Yeah.
with what you're describing and with what people are trying to do with transracial identity. Like, there's a difference with growing up within a cultural space and feeling like you're part of a community that's different than changing your body to look like a certain race with a certain racial phenotype and saying that you're having the experiences the same as that community with that phenotype. Like, do you see where the difference is? Like, and I don't think that you need to be like, I don't think that's trans in any form. Like, because culture isn't necessarily tied to a phenotype, right? Like, you can be raised in India and have a lot of cultural experiences with Indian culture and feel like you belong there. And you don't have to change anything about your body. You don't have to change anything about your name or anything like that. You can just exist in that culture because it's an extension of, humans being humans. I think there's a difference when people are saying, there's a difference though, if someone is saying that they are like adopting a certain label, especially one that equates to having a lot of baggage, like somebody who presents with a certain like racial phenotype is probably not going to be profiled in the same way that the other members of the community would be, right? Like, they're not going to be subjected to oppression in the same way. So even if you have the cultural bond, like some of the cultural, like if you fit in with that culture, that doesn't mean that you can, it seems unfair for that person to say, well, I know exactly what you're going through, because I don't think that they do. I don't think they can claim that identity in that way.
I think that's where there's a lot of nuance, though, because I think there are a lot of things that I can't relate to cis women, where
yeah, but it's different. You're talking about culture, but I think race and culture, like I agree that there is some overlap with them, but it's there's more of a divide, I think, between race and culture than there is like with like gender and sex.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is that, again, like I said on the earlier call about this, when we're talking about race, we're talking about like a political category that's assigned to people based on their phenotype. Whereas when we're talking about gender, we're talking about our gender identity. In this case, we're talking about our internal experience of the social categories and like the aesthetics and the schema that are all associated with that sex category. So we're talking about an internal assessment of yourself versus a political group that you're put in based on like largely the color of your skin. So I think those things are like vastly, vastly different. and not like similar in the sense of an ability to self-identify at all.
I guess that's where I think like we haven't yet come to a word that exists, and I feel like the rationale for having that word would be to help someone like myself like be able to put into words things where
I don't know if we need a word though, because if it's a cultural thing, your phenotype does not determine your culture, right? So I don't think you need a word. I don't think you need a word like that because even if you were like even if you're a white person, that doesn't mean that you have a certain culture. Like American people are different than British people. Like I don't think that it's the same.
Can I ask Sabrina, what thing do you feel like you can or aren't able to do that having some sort of identity label would allow you to do that is missing here?
I think like connecting better with the people that I would say I would like to connect better with, where I guess like if someone, because where I'm from, it would be pretty frequent that people ask like, what is your ethnicity or your race? And so then having to state my race, then it feels really invasive. In the same way, if someone asks, like, what are your genitals?
They're asking about your phenotype. They're asking about that. They're not asking about your culture.
Are you white, Sabrina?
I am.
Honestly, this kind of sounds like white guilt to me. Like, you're low-key embarrassed about being white because white people can be really awful. And like you grew up in this neighborhood, you're saying that maybe wasn't predominantly white. And so maybe you just don't feel like you relate to other white people or something because of that. But it genuinely just kind of sounds like white guilt to me. I don't understand what you're missing. Like how are you inhibited from connecting to people because you lack a label? I don't understand.
Because there's often like a negative, like, I don't think what a good analogy would be, but like being considered part of that culture. That
right. So that's not white. A trans label. That's a subculture. You want a label for the subculture that you're part of.
It sounds
like if you are, yeah, like there are people who are like, if they're from an immigrant family that moves to a certain location and that family, like has more kids and stuff, and they grow up in a different culture. Like there are subcultures within cultures that describe a blending of experiences, a blending of heritage, and then the new culture that you grew up in. Like there are ways to describe that, and I don't think that's more similar to like subculture than it is to a trans label. You don't need a trans label for that. You don't need to be like trans at this. It's just blending cultures.
Yeah,
it's blending. Yeah, it's different.
I also, Sabrina, I'm not going to lie, I'm not saying this is actually true, but the vibe I get from what you just described, it low-key, unironically sounds like you kind of just want an N-word pass for when you're listening to music. That's kind of what it sounds like. You're like, oh, I want to be, there's negatives to not being a part of the culture. Like what? Like not being able to say certain things or do certain things? Because that's the only thing I can think of.
No, that's not it. It's just like, feel like if I go, because of how I look, it's a lot more difficult for me to make connections with the people that I would like to make connections with. Whereas if there was some magical way to look more how I felt, it would be a lot easier to make those connections.
But okay, let me give you a comparison. Like I feel like I can kind of relate to what you're feeling, but there's a way that you navigate this, and you understand that you're going to be sticking out like a sore thumb. You're always going to like I've been to India. I love Indian culture. I have a lot of friends who are from India. I like greatly value like their traditions and like getting to know them, connecting with them. I can do that on a personal level. I can connect with them and still understand that I don't share every single experience with them. There's some experiences I do share with them. There's certain things that we do connect a lot on, but I don't need to think of myself as like inherently part of them. I can know that my experiences connect with them, and I can grow with them as a person. Like, we can become friends, grow friendships, but it's like I don't need them to have like friendship at first sight because of my skin color or anything. Like, it's just, you build friendships by you can connect with people without any of that needed. Yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult, like cross-cultural communication, but that's just what it is. It's cross-cultural communication. You communicate to that person, you understand a bit more than maybe they think you do, and you just handle it that way. I don't know.
I guess it's like I have a lot of family that is mixed, like because of where I grew up, and so like I have a lot of like white passing or white presenting, or I guess white passing family that like we have very similar experiences based on like living in the same household and living with like the same parental people.
Right, but why can't you
in our
just
house.
communicate? Why can't you just sit down with another person and say, "Hey, we have a shared experience"?
Yeah, I like nobody's
I think
denying
that's
that
where,
like overwhelmingly like your zip code and your income has more to do with your outcomes than like race, but the problem is those things are usually heavily racially biased, like your zip code and your like the income of a given area. So it's like I'm sure you do have similar experiences with people you were raised around, but I don't understand. I still don't understand what you think this identity or this appearance changing thing is going to give you. Like, what? I don't like what connection you're missing with people. Like, I don't think if you changed now that you would suddenly gain that. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you still be missing
think-
those experiences?
I think being able to like make those connections easier with having some kind of word. And I think like I remember the first time I heard bicultural and I was like, ooh, I really like that. And I'm not sure if like my using that is like an incorrect way of using that. And but like I think something like that helps. And when someone asks my race and they're reducing me to my race and ethnicity, then it's not as nuanced as and I think like just in general, like this country cannot have this conversation because of like how
Because the thing is, though, I think they're not asking you about your specific cultural experience in that case. A lot of when people are asking for your race, it is about like other kind of bigger issues related to that, like other areas of oppression and things that are related to that political group.
I also
So-
think like the fact that like a person, like a black person the fact that they might not want to interact with a white person, even who they have a lot of experiences with, is kind of valid in my opinion. Like, we live in a culture that is super fucking racist, and I could understand as somebody who's a part of a minority group, I don't tend to like spending my time with a lot of the cishetes. Like, they're fucking weird in the way that, and they're so locked in these boxes, and they don't even always realize it. And so I think it's totally valid, and like I can sympathize rather, with how that could create some problems for you interacting where you're located. But like, I really don't think that this is a like racial identity thing. I don't think that, I don't know. I just, I can't understand. I'm sorry. I just don't think the case.
Yeah, and I also feel like as Arden kind of described earlier, we're probably not even the right people to have this conversation, because we're not people of color. We're not from those communities that are going to be really affected by like the use of this terminology. So I would want somebody with more experience to weigh in.
For sure. I think where like a lot of biracial people who are white passing have the experiences where like they don't feel like they are Black enough, for instance, or whatever enough because of the way they get treated from their own community.
Mhm.
I think like it's similar to that of like not feeling like I'm enough, but also not having any word to describe it, where like a biracial person could say like I'm biracial. Like my niece who is mixed could say I'm biracial, but that's not the same for me.
I
No,
feel like
this is different.
I just feel like the solution to this is not like some magical identity label or like changing your phenotype, which like sounds suspiciously like doing blackface. I just feel like the solution to this is that like, okay, you have this like unique position where you're around a community that's like primarily people of color and you like relate to the people in your area more culturally. I feel like that's an opportunity for you to do some sort of like communication sort of career pathway or strategy of like trying to help people relate to each other more. I don't think the solution is you identifying as a race that you are not.
Right. And again, I understand that I am not I am racially white. So I like the reason why I said quote unquote transracial in the call screening was just because I think there's not a better, like, this has been like sort of a topic amongst people the past 10 years, but I think like there's something that doesn't exist for this. But I can see that like I'm either not doing a good job explaining or I don't have a good
I think you're
argument here.
just tying. I just think you're trying too hard to explain something that's more of a culture thing than like a trans thing.
Yeah. They're
And
just
this might not be the right
different.
place to discuss like nuanced cultural things.
Okay.
Cool.
I appreciate you guys taking the call, and I super respect everything that you do. And like some of the conversations that I've listened to just have been so like really, really helpful for finding the different language for myself and for like trying to educate others. So yeah, I think I'm really, really grateful for you taking this call.
Cool. Thank you so much for calling, Sabrina. We'll talk to you another time. All right. Have a good day. Oof, man.
I feel kind of bad being so hostile.
Yeah, I don't think we were particularly hostile, but we were definitely pushing back pretty hard. But I mean, it's mostly because I just, we don't need to rehash it. I think we did it. We laid our thoughts out pretty well on the call. Definitely love feedback on that from like other like trans people of color and how they feel about that though, because I definitely like, I'm perpetually aware of my inadequacy on that topic. So yeah,
a lot of people in side chat were feeling kind of icky.
it was straying into some weird categories, but I think we kind of saved it. So all right. We have 2 more calls left. We have Josh in Pennsylvania and Carol. We're going to talk to Josh first, then we'll get to you last, Carol. So please hold on. Or if you want to drop, that is also something you can do. But we're going to talk to Josh, who is a writer in Pennsylvania. Pronouns he, him, wants to know how to include trans people in writing without it becoming a stereotype. So covered this topic a few times. So happy to go over it again. Josh, you are live with Arden and Ben. What's going on?
I figured you guys had probably talked about it before, but among all the crazy amount of episodes, I hadn't necessarily heard it before. So,
I understand. Happy to reiterate. So go for it.
Basically, I mean, I'm a writer or I guess a hopeful writer. It's not like I've been majorly published or anything, but, whatever. Who has always tried to be pretty inclusive in general. And I find it easy to be pretty inclusive of gender. I mean, I just have to have characters who are well written and obviously female. And then same with race, it can come down to just as easy as describing chestnut skin or Mexican heritage or something. And then again, fleshing out the character fully so that they're not a token person of color. But when I'm trying to include trans people, I've been running into the problem of, I mean, honestly, just not having them come out in the middle of the story and be like, "Hi, I'm a trans person," and that seems like something people don't do. So, I guess I'm asking for some advice and how you've seen good representation done in a way that doesn't come across like that, maybe.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple ways you can go about it. I, I am not particularly opposed to either. I think any of them can be done well, but it's a matter of if they're done well, and that is such like a tedious thing to line to walk. But basically, my thoughts on it are: one option is to have the trans identity basically be irrelevant. Like, you are interacting with this character, you're hearing their thoughts, their actions. Maybe there's some fact about them, like maybe if this person is a trans woman, like you mentioned that they're like particularly tall or something, at some point, and then eventually, like the fact that they're trans comes out, and then it's like, oh, we've seen this character along the whole way. They were developed as a person, and it was kind of irrelevant until now. Now we know this fact about them, and it just kind of gets integrated or whatever. I think that's an option. I think also, I know a lot of trans people are not like, I don't think this is like a massive movement in the trans community or anything, but I've heard it a lot of people who have like, they don't like when real world bigotry is exemplified in books, kind of like we get enough of this in the real world. But I do think there's an opportunity to kind of show how people can be engaged with in like a healthy way, or show like mature responses to these things. Like a great example, I think, and this isn't trans related, but if you've ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the main characters is Sokka. In the whole first like season and a half, he's pretty sexist, and he like openly says some pretty sexist, shitty things. And repeatedly, he gets clowned on. Like a girl kicks his ass in a fight one time, and like his sister makes fun of him all the time. I think there's good ways to kind of show like, yes, people have these bad views, but like there's a good opportunity to sort of do some like, this is how somebody in that position might grow and change over time kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know if I think there's exactly a right or wrong way to represent trans people well, let me take that back. There's definitely a wrong way. I don't think there is like one right way or one great way. And I think you kind of have to accept that no matter how you do it, there is likely going to be some contingency of people that are unhappy or don't feel represented the way they want to be represented. I don't know, Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree. You can take it a few different ways. Like I think like, and not tokenizing people. So like don't make the person like, don't make it so obvious that you're just like throwing in a trans person to throw in a trans person. Like
right. It can't be their whole personality or something. That's not good.
Yeah. So it's like probably just keep it realistic, as in like they could just be any other character, but also happen to be trans. Like that's probably one of the better ways to do it. Is like, this person happens to be trans, but here's like this well-developed character that has like, it's just kind of going about their business, doing the thing. Like that's the way you can go about it. I think like maybe stay away from trying to elaborate like this huge backstory for a trans person. Like if you don't understand the experience super well, I mean, you could like, if you have somebody that you can model the person after, like that would be like, if you took a trans person's experience and used that, you could do that. But I would just refrain from like trying to interpret trans experiences through your own perspective, because that can get like a little weird and seem a little fake.
Right. I'm a cis guy. I'm not going to know exactly what a trans person's gone through. Obviously, yeah.
So it's like, but if you just keep them like a normal person doing normal person things and they happen to be trans, like that's pretty great way to do it.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that seems explanatory enough. I guess I'm still worried to some extent about coming across as a stereotype, but I suppose I do know trans people in real life as well, so having them read over it will also be a great way to be like, does it seem offensive or terrible?
Yeah, definitely do that. I think, and you can look at like some good examples. Like I haven't seen the movie, but I know a lot of trans people said like, I saw the TV glow was a movie that represented the trans experience really well. I didn't watch it, so I can't personally recommend it. But there's lots of good media out
I
there of
highly
trans
recommend it. I do
people.
love that movie.
Oh yeah, okay, great. Pose is great. Granted, that is really if it's not like focusing on trans experiences, it's harder to do things that Pose does, because Pose is all like gender in your face 100% of the time. That's because it's like exclusively focusing on a group of trans people. So yeah, I mean, if you have specific examples of troubles you're running into that you want to run by us, we can talk about that. But other than that, I mean, I don't know if I have a whole lot else to add. Yeah.
I think that's a good answer. I can go back and listen to the call again. I think I picked up some good things in there for sure. Some helpful things.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for calling, Josh, and best of luck. I always love to hear our creative audience coming up with cool stories and stuff. So thanks for calling in. We'll talk to you later, all right?
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. All right, we got the last call of the day coming up, and then we're going to do super chats. Remember, super chats of $5 or more will be read out live. And if you include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Ben in your super chat, it's a vote. Whoever gets the least amount of votes has to spend 2 minutes defending the silly position in the poll in chat right now. And also consider hitting the like button, because that is free and helps the channel massively. So if you don't have money to give, you can just click that button. That helps us with the algorithm a lot. So please do that. But until then, we're going to talk to our last caller of the day, Carol. She's in Colorado with some questions for Ben regarding trans military stuff. So Carol, you are live. Transatlantic with Arden and Ben. What's going on?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hey, Arden, first of all, I want to say find that spirit that you need for Pride, because we need it this year. Definitely. And you were correct. At the beginning of the show, you said that the personal stories tend to make people think more. So don't be afraid to put your personal story out there on social media. Yeah, it opens you up to some nasty comments in the long run, but you know, if you're going to change people's minds, that's how we do it. I really believe that. Is it okay if I make a comment about some of your earlier callers here real quick?
Yeah, try to do it quick so we can get on to the discussion. Yeah, go for it.
Yep. For Caleb, first of all, thanks, bro, for trying to figure this out so you're not insulting your friend. But the word transsexual, like the American language is always evolving and slang is always evolving. If you go back to the 1950s and look at the articles on Christina Jorgensen, the word transsexual was not used. It was sex change. It wasn't until 1969 when Doctors Green and Doctors Money published the first all-inclusive book on the subject of transgender, which was titled Transsexual. And they went on the lecture circuit in the talk shows, and then the trash magazines like, you know, National Enquirer picked it up, and the word transsexual came into the American lexicon. And it was there for some time, but then it became kind of insulting. It became the word of jokes, used as a brunt of jokes. And people were looking for a term that was not sex related, that kind of went more into the gender issue. And so they went to the DSM-2, the diagnostic manual there, and found transgender was in there. And that kind of became the word because it took sex out of the picture and focused more on gender. But now I agree with Arden. Nowadays, it is used almost strictly by trans medicalists who are trying to use it to kind of elevate themselves. But anyway, that's just kind of a quick little history there. For the other,
actually, Carol, if we can, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I low-key feel like you're kind of auditioning for the show a little bit, and I'm not saying that's your intent, but that's what it feels like. So if we could just actually skip this and get to the core of your call, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. So, Dr. Ben, sorry about what the military is doing to you. I can relate. I was thrown out back in 1988. My question is, it's been a long time since I've dealt with the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, but back when I did know about it, anyone that was being involuntarily separated from the service was entitled to a hearing, whether it was an official court-martial or even just an administrative hearing.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. You're still correct.
Are any of the people getting that now?
They should be.
So have you been informed that you're going to be getting a hearing?
No, I'm voluntarily separating, so I'm not going
Wait.
through that shit.
Okay. And now, since you are separating, and since the military is doing all this, are they enforcing the rules of the Defending Women from Gender Ideology executive order? Are they forcing you to use the other bathrooms and restrooms?
They
and
already
so forth,
were,
locker
because
rooms?
I'm still female in Deers, and I honestly, as much as I like have been talking about my like this personal issue, I don't necessarily like being interrogated about my personal issues on the show. Like
Uh-huh.
I've been going through my own things on my own. I have my own attorney that I've been going over things with. I'm already going through the separation. So it's like, do you have anything more general about the military ban, or is it just interrogating me about my process? Because
Well,
I'd rather
it's
not
not just
rehash
you
all that.
personally. I mean this for all service members, not just you personally. Because I'm trying to understand what's going to happen to these people. It's, I mean,
I mean,
I love
the
my,
involuntary stuff is only just like now being implemented. So, and there's still a lot of unknowns. Like even all of voluntary people, our stuff hasn't even made it to HRC yet. So, like only a few people have even gotten separation dates. So we're still early on. We don't know exactly how the involuntaries are all going to work out. They're trying to go through PHAs, but like my guess is a lot of stuff is going to change before they actually end up kicking people out. So.
oh, that sucks. Yeah. And are military members, not necessarily you, but military members across the board, have you heard of any violence as a result of this to other military members?
I'm honestly like I'm on admin leave. I'm not really paying as much attention. There's a whole group of trans people, you know, kind of having back and forth conversations. I'm not super plugged into a lot of it right now because honestly, I'm just trying to like swim on my own. So like I'm handling my own shit at the moment. So I
Totally get it.
I
Totally
haven't heard of
understand.
any, but it's possible.
Okay. Well, hopefully not. And best of luck with your future, most definitely. Because I know it sucks. I know for me personally, I felt kind of like my country had abandoned me. And horrible feeling to live with. So I mean, I wish you the best in the future on that all through.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Carol?
Not really. I was just kind of curious as to, you know, what's happening within the military at the moment. I truly, I mean, I currently still kind of in my work with military people kind of secondhand. And so
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you want,
always
follow,
interested in-
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
if you want to follow, like, there's some people on like Facebook and other platforms, like one of the main organizations, like pushing out this information and getting involved in these fights is called Sparta.
Uh-huh.
They're they're a good organization to follow. They're putting out the updates before anybody else gets them. So I'd recommend go looking into them for kind of all that information.
Also, if you want to hear more about Ben's story, he was on the Hang Up, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago with Matt, and that's going to be coming out as a clip, that starting segment where they talked on Matt's channel in like a week or two. So
Okay,
that's
nice.
posted around.
And
so
I'll do that.
yeah, and I just recorded an interview with Seth Andrews yesterday, so that's going to be going out for like his whole LGBTQ thing. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's out
I
there.
know that.
I apologize for like not giving a whole lot now. I've been on
And I
how many
apologize.
shows in the past few weeks
when I said
just
you,
talking
I
about this
meant,
issue, and I'm just like, oh, I'm done with this.
and I apologize. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. When I was saying you, I was thinking you as the military, not you personally. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Like I said,
nice.
was not intending to interrogate you.
Yeah.
No worries, Carol. Thanks for calling in. I'm sorry we didn't have a lot more to offer. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to add, go ahead. But other than that, we're going to wrap up our calls for today.
Okay. Well, thanks for getting me on.
Yep. Thanks for calling, Carol. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, let me close down the lines so we can get on to our super chats for today. Interesting set of callers.
Yeah.
The sports ones I feel like were good. I honestly I prefer the approach of talking more like now lately about kind of like the actual issues facing women in sports and things like that. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to kind of test that out because I haven't really gotten to do that yet. I also did the same kind of research for like 3 other issues where trans people become like the primary concern of this domain, like particularly and like the issues affecting fertility in kids. I did a boatload of research the other night on what the primary factors are relating to that. And surprise, trans people don't even like break the fucking list. And the other one was like equality for women. A bunch of sources from the U.S. government, by the way, and from NATO and the UN, or sorry, not NATO, the UN on women's equality issues women face. Yeah, and there are so many, so many trans people don't even come up on the list. So, yeah. Anyway, all right, let's get to our super chats. Remember, super chats $5 or more. We're going to read live. If you include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Ben in your super chat, that's a vote. Whoever gets the least amount of votes has to defend the position in the poll. And right now, it looks like bottoms must duel for tops is winning.
Yes. I might even show off the puppy if we get enough hashtag
Ooh.
puppy.
I can show off one of my new scaly puppies.
Yeah, we got team dogs versus team snakes today.
I won't pull out a snake, but I do have obviously lots of snakes. But I've gotten a new lizard recently.
Team reptile will do for Arden.
Snakes, reptiles, I'll take it all. All right. You want to take that first one?
Yeah. All right. $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Gonna design a doctor subclass of bard just for Ben. Hashtag team puppy. Hashtag team doctor bard. I mean, go for it. That sounds like a cleric bard multi-class.
Yeah.
Which would be super badass, actually.
You're like, now I think I have to do this.
I know, right? I might.
Another 5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Brents. The Council of Brents. It's like the Council of Mortys or the Council of what's his name? Mr. Fantastic. They have the Council of Reeds. We have a multiversal council of Brents in our audience. $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. I thought you were flipping people off in your thumbnail / title screen pick, Arden. I now see 2 fingers. Yes, I was doing like the rock on. Hashtag Vandella effect. Hashtag Team Justice for Umbreon. I mean, I'm happy to do it. Like, fuck you guys, but
no, we should do this now. Like, fuck whatever is going on in this world.
Honestly, I've seen a few creators recently talking about you know how YouTube will you can really just get under YouTube's thumb and they will just like mute or demonetize or ban everything you do. We're on a pretty good path right now. I don't think I've noticed us getting demonetized as much in the more recent past. And we cuss a lot on these shows. We drop F-bombs, we flip people off. I mean, we don't really hold back. You know, I don't catch us censoring ourselves too much. In that way anyway. But also, I don't know who Team Justice for Umbreon is. That might be a vote for me. I'm not entirely sure. Zurith, you'll have to clarify in chat.
Oh yeah, was that with the whole like Pokemon?
Yes, Jessica Doodoo McButtface has decided to harass me because I have the correct opinion on the best Pokemon, and she likes Growlithe.
And that whole situation with the name change on YouTube, and now it's stuck like that for a month.
Yeah. It's beautiful, honestly.
I love it. 5 pounds from Sean Isherwood. The only n such that 2 to the nth is 7 above a square are n equals 3, 4, 5, 7, and 15. Cool math facts. Cool math facts. That's all I can say to that, Sean.
Yep. We have another $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Hey, Dr. Ben, what's a good source of magnesium? I don't absorb electrolytes well, mainly sodium and magnesium. Hashtag Dr. Ben, hashtag show the good boy.
I will show the good boy. But I mean, we probably just need to take a supplement at that point, like an actual like pill form supplement, if you're low on mag. But I'll go get the puppy while you read the next one.
Yeah, I also don't absorb electrolytes particularly well, and I drink a fuck ton of Gatorade. That's my solution. And I've actually found it helps. I was having pot symptoms for a while where like when I stood up, I would almost pass out. And excessive water and Gatorade has been helpful at reducing that. 10 pounds from Sean Isherwood. Beal conjecture: if a to the x power plus b to the y power equals c to the z power for positive integers a, b, c, x, y, z, with x, y, and z being greater than 2, if then a, b, c have a common prime factor. What the fuck? This remains conjecture. Proving it can get you $1 million. Happy Pride. Eat my entire ass.
He's getting so big. Oh, hi.
Oh, what a cutie. Oh my god, he is getting big so fast. You got him right
He's
before a growth
4
spurt,
months
clearly.
Oh yeah, no, he's 4 months now. Hi,
Oh my
sweetie.
god.
Guess who gets to get his rabies shot this weekend? You do.
Big yawn turned
Look at
into
this.
let me chomp on you, Dad.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, one sec.
Oh, I should announce. We found out what he is. We got his DNA results back, and he
Gotta be
is
some kind of shepherd.
high. Oh no, surprisingly not. But he is mostly
Really?
border collie, so he's mostly
Oh, okay.
velociraptor. So
I see
yeah,
that.
like it's like 59% border collie. Hold on, I can actually pull up the picture. Hold on. This is super important, guys. The pet statistics are super duper important.
Border
Put them-
collies, I feel
okay.
like, are so smart but so high energy. They're like,
Oh yeah,
I need to
Oh,
be
yeah, that is-
engaged.
yeah. We play soccer all day, every day. But he likes the pool. It's great, and he chases the birds. Yeah, 59% border collie, 16.5% pit bull. So he's also extra cuddly. 13% just regular collie, and then that sneaky 11.3% husky, which is why he screams all the time. So he's got this lovely mix of like being constantly hyper, needing all of the attention, will bite your hands off, and will scream at you the whole time if you're not playing with him. So
Oh, he likes attention.
he's adorable. Yeah. He's under there chewing on my chair right now. So if he chews on the lever and I drop, it will be really funny because he does that. Anyways,
this
I'm
one's
guessing
for
this is mine
you.
to read.
Yeah.
Okay. 20 pounds from Jackie Greenland. Worked out yesterday that that according to the EHRC, I am Schrodinger's lesbian because under UK law, I am in the same sex marriage, but also not legally lesbian according to the Equality Act. Going to be interesting. Hashtag Team Arden. Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's so goofy. Wrong one. There we go. Another $5 from Zurich Moonpa. Fun facts about me. I have tetrachromacy. I have a size 15 wide foot, which I threatened to put up folks' size 10 ass. I had pyloric stenosis. Hashtag Team Umbreon. Who is Team Umbreon a vote for? I don't think Ben does Pokemon, and Umbreon is like the anti-Arden thing, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. What even is my favorite Pokemon? I have to actually think about that. $9.99 from Louise Richardson. Hear me out. Maybe we should create our own world, a ghetto, if you like, where we can live our lives transparently. We could still let cis people interact with us, but we could discourage bigots. We could just get our own private island and move there.
If I wasn't very confident that the US would immediately nuke that island, I would be so down. Like, yes, get us away from the cishets, please. We would do so much better running society. But yeah, they would murder us so fast.
Yeah. Sorry for all the puppy noises with him digging, like trying to dig underneath my chair.
Oh, no, we
He's
love
very
it.
cute, though.
$5 in Melatonin Ale. Only time I've used gender neutral pronoun is if I genuinely didn't know, like if I've only corresponded in an email and the name isn't obvious. Hashtag Team Arden. Yeah, I think that's totally valid use. I also think sometimes, like, if you like kind of forgot and you don't want to like misgender someone and you kind of hiccup a they, but then you gender them correctly, it doesn't really matter. Like, no trans person is going to be like, wow, you used they on me one time. This is the, like, it's a fictional, like, they watched the GameStop woman 10 years ago and they can't get it out of their head that they think every trans person is going to do that to them if they make any kind of mistake. And it's just not reality, you know?
Yeah. $5 to Militant Ale. To be clear, I might use gender neutral when their pronouns might be something else. I have MB friends, and obviously I use they them. Hashtag Team Arden. Yeah, and that's what we mean. Yeah, if it's an accident, nobody really cares, or if you don't know.
$5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Arden, can I get your best middle class judgy snob woman impression? Am I not already giving? Am I not just using the word giving now? You know, it used to be like edgy and like you're in with like the culture if you said giving, and now it's like cringy privileged white women at award ceremonies say it. So, you know, just using that term gets it for me.
And apparently I have to give my best extra corny dad joke. Well, okay, so the one that I use the most frequently is when someone asks me what time it is, I tell them time to get a watch, and people hate that. But I do say it.
And he said hashtag, or sorry, I forget your
roll out
pronouncer.
a D20, okay.
Do we have like an app we can do?
Okay. I have an app too.
All right, I'm just going to use Google actually, this is easier.
Where's my dice app?
Oh, I got a 15.
Oh man, I got a 14.
Yes.
That goes to Arden, I guess. Okay.
Okay. Oops. There we go.
$9.99 from JW Edgy. Dr. Ben, I saw a trans woman influencer claim she got shorter. Is it possible if I start estrogen, thinking about it for other reasons, I could get shorter? That would be tight. I'd like to be under 6 foot. It's possible. Because a lot of the height is like from vertebral height, but also like the disc height. And that's a lot of that is like water and stuff. So it's possible that the estrogen influences like the amount of water inside the vertebral like discs. And that might be why people lose some height. I don't know an exact answer, but that would be my hypothesis. So it is definitely possible to get a little bit shorter with estrogen.
I was always under the impression, and maybe this is unfair, and maybe it totally is whatever. You just said medical terms that I can't remember. That it always felt more to me like when you're trying to identify as a man, you kind of have an obligation to lie. Like, my shoe size is bigger and my height is taller. And then when you transition to being a woman, you're like, oh no, I could actually just be honest. And you end up being not what your lying height was. And that's kind of what I always took it as, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you do genuinely just, it seems weird to me that after undergoing bone changes and like your bone plates sealing over, however that works, that suddenly you would change height. Like, that doesn't seem like it makes sense to me, but
yeah, it
I'm
could
also
be
not
like
a
a bone
doctor.
density thing or like a disc height thing.
Cool.
But again, hypothesis. Is this me?
No, I think this one's me. $5 from Zurith Moonpaw Brands. Hashtag Team Justice for Umbreon. However, Jolteon is Bestion. And I also saw Zurith said in their membership chat, Arden, you are Team Umbreon because I'm stupid and my brain is too hot. Hashtag summer sucks. So I'll take that one, but I'm not going to take the others because it's it wasn't clear.
Come on, I need some love from the chat, guys. £5 from Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. In case you need a reason to smile today, there's a small crab museum. We're in the UK vocally supporting trans people. Crab rave for trans rights. This is where I think about Katie Montgomery and how much she would love to be at the crab museum for trans rights.
I don't understand how it got linked to trans people. I know people talk about crabs because like they've evolved. There's been like convergent evolution several times towards a similar body plan, but I'm like, I don't understand. This is like the shark. Like, how did this become a trans thing? I genuinely don't understand it at all.
Well, at least the shark was because of IKEA and plushies, so that makes sense.
And the colors are kind of there, but $4.99 from JW Edgy. Sam, me and my partner were having a very similar conversation yesterday about me. Wherever you land, you're seen and valid, a fellow nonconforming NB. Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Honestly, like this is what I've often said. I don't feel comfortable making hard claims on like me being like female or something like that, because it's like, well, I will generally say I'm a woman. Like, I don't know. All this stuff is like where you put categories on boxes is arbitrary to a certain extent, not completely, but like, yeah, you can do however you want. My brain.
$10 from Teeny. Thank you both again for your guidance and for listening today. I really appreciate you both. Oh, this is Sam. Glad we could help,
Nice.
Sam.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for calling. $10 from Duda McButtface. Probably gonna miss the show as I am supposed to be working, but fuck the customers. It's more important to get my incorrect opinion out there. Arden is awesome. Duda McButtface is a big Duda McButtface dumbhead. And hashtag team whoever says Espeon is turd. Espeon is turd. No, it's all right. I'm gonna give that point to Ben because you clearly hate me, and
fight.
I don't want any point from you, Jessica. I don't, just like the Democrats don't need Elon's billions of dollars, I don't want votes from you. That's right, I compared you to Elon. What are you going to do about it?
Dude, McButtface. $5 from Cassie Wolf. Is it a violation of bodily autonomy to have a basic consequence for your child not listening? Like 10 minutes of no playtime. Hashtag team Dr. Ben 10. I don't think, this is not, I don't see what this question is, but yeah, like, it's not wrong to give your child like regular discipline, like a
no
timeout is not a problem. Like, I'm against violence, and I'm sure Arden is also against violence or against hitting your child. But like a timeout is not a problem.
Bodily autonomy is about using your body. If in order to put them in timeout, you have to hook them up to a like blood transfusions machine that you're now connected on, then yes, that would be a violation of their bodily autonomy. That's not what's happening. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's a violation of your bodily autonomy. Some caller tried to call in Chewed Gum about this, where it's like, oh, if I have to hold my baby, that's violating my bodily autonomy. And I'm like, no, it's not. You can drop it on the ground. You can watch its brain splatter across the pavement if you really want to. You'd be fucking evil and gross for it, but it's not violating your bodily autonomy to hold up that baby. So weird.
Yeah.
$5 from Zurith Moonpaw. If I remember to put my dice bag in my travel stuff when I go to D&D, I pack my clack sack back. Hashtag Team Dillahunty's better half. Hashtag bestest producer nerd. Thank you. You really tripped me up with clack sack back. But
clack sack. That's a new Dr. Seuss book just about dice. $9.99 from Daniel. This race call makes me uncomfortable, so I'm gonna hide in the super chat. Hashtag Dr. Ben. It's okay. We were all uncomfortable.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could not get. Anyway, I'm not gonna go into it anymore. $5 from Mr. Boricua 10. I missed most of today's show. Hope it was good. We'll watch back. Pulling fought Sam. Hashtag Dr.
Oh, pulling for Sam. Okay.
Oh, for Sam. Yeah.
Oh, so this means we probably don't get a British. We don't get a British one today.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Oh no. $5 from Joshua Everett. I'm shocked at how many mid-men think they could waltz under the turf against a professional women's team and dominate in any sport. Hashtag Team Ben, hashtag Boys Club. Yeah, for real. For real. Like, these people that think men are inherently better than women are the ones that think that they can, like, beat any female athlete. Like, have you seen the videos of MMA guys, or not even MMA guys, just random guys that think they can beat any female fighter, and then they do? Like, there are videos where like they take a woman up on it and they get absolutely wrecked, and it's hilarious. I love those videos.
So I'm not gonna pretend I watch fighting, but it's one of the few things that I actually don't mind watching. I kind of like MMA a little bit. It's really satisfying to watch someone get punched in the face and fall on the
I
ground.
love MMA. I love
Yeah.
MMA.
Genuinely, I think a new rule should be that if you claim that about sports, you should have to fight a professional MMA woman and see how long you last in the ring. And if you can last longer than like 2 minutes without being face first on the ground, then you can talk shit. But if not, you have to shut the fuck up forever. Like, you're no longer allowed to talk about this issue on social media.
Yeah, it's like those people can't even, you couldn't even go up against like a pretty average woman in jujitsu. Like, go to any jujitsu club that has women, like especially if they have a woman purple belt or above. Like, they don't even have to compete professionally. Just if they have a purple belt woman or above, go roll with them. You will be humbled very quickly.
Beautiful. We have $5 from the Vampire Queen. Slowpoke is the greatest Pokemon. Plus, for the Pokemon Poke nerds, is the Shelder or Slowpoke the bottom in Slowbro Evolution? Hashtag Team Puppy. I love Slowpoke. I actually started recently replaying Pokemon Crystal, and I have a Slowbro on my team. Because you get them early and they're so cute. They're these like dopey little like things with the twisty
So
ears.
dopey.
They're so cute.
Yeah.
And that's a point for you. You just took the lead.
Team Puppy, he's napping.
Actually, I
For
think you should have
once.
one more point. I think I forgot to give you one on the
Maybe.
last one. Which means you should have
Puppy
8.
napping for once in his life.
Yeah, we don't need to disturb the baby.
Yeah. $10 from Mo Scoville. Good show today. As much as I'd like to see Arden argue the point, I'm always. It's not a hashtag. That is an at. At
Mo,
Team Arden.
Mo, because I know you, I want to give it to you, but I can't. It's the rule. No hashtag,
We
no
gotta
vote.
be fair.
Mo.
We gotta be fair.
I'm so sorry, Mo.
Poor Mo.
Them's the rules. $5 from Quantos Nachos. I'm not too late, am I? Hashtag Team Snake Doc Dot.
Team
You
Snake
guys
Doctor
figure it out. I don't know. I'm sleepy. Oh, okay, you're intentionally trying to be ambiguous, which means I feel like that doesn't
that's
count.
a fence sitter. Yeah, that's a fence sitter vote.
Boo. Weakness.
Weakness. 5 Canadian from Ayla Ursus for the hardest worker of the line. Hashtag Team Arden. And she does.
Thank you.
She does work pretty hard.
You are correct. Not even gonna mince words. Motherfucker, I'm sitting in this goddamn office chair 40, 50 hours a week to make this network happen. $5 from Tiffany Odacrem. What are the sexuality terms for non-binary folks? Hashtag Team Ben. I think this goes back to the call we had with Sam, where it's like, I don't like the desire to have a category that is like the right one is the mistake. Like, these terms are only useful in as much as they help us understand shared bigotry and oppression that we all face, and for communicating a general concept. Like, I will often tell people I'm bisexual, but if I really wanted to break it down, I could probably say I'm pansexual. And if I wanted to break that down further, I could probably say I'm slightly favoring like women in my attraction, generally speaking, but it's pretty close. It's like 55 to 60, 40, you know, like favoring women. Like, I don't think having strict terms for labels is actually useful or what they're there for. So yeah, I think it's a mistake to think this way. I think if a non-binary person says they're straight or they're bisexual and you don't understand what they mean by that, you should ask them.
Yeah, it's like I will also say that I'm bi, but I'm also like mostly somewhere on the ace spectrum. But I don't want to just say I'm bi some of the time, but bi for some people some of the time.
Bi sometime.
Sometimes. 5 Canadian from Ayla Ursus. Another for hashtag Team Arden.
Thank
Closing
you.
the gap.
And then we've got $5 from Spooky Metalhead. This is Josh from the Writer Call. Thanks for the advice. The whole line community is the best on the net. Hashtag Team Arden. Thank you. I hope your book comes out well. There is I don't know how easy it would be to search for it. there's a caller who's called like 3 or 4 times asking about this similar topic, and I think we gave a lot of the same advice, but there might be something, if you can find it, in there that we didn't say today that could be useful. So I'm sure there were other hosts who offered, different perspectives.
Yeah.
So yeah, try and look for that.
Another 20 Canadian from Ayla Ursus. Last one I can do, hashtag Team Arden.
Yes. Make Ben read all of the Team Ardens. I love it.
Yeah, make me read all of them, and then you know what? If I lose, then you'll all have to hear my voice more. My sexy voice.
Yeah, you just get more screen time. $5 from Doodoo McButtface Poophead. Stinky Face. Nope, you don't get to claim you have the right opinion on Pokemon until you've accepted my call and gutted my evidence. Jessica's determined to get a call on the show about
Pokemon.
It is not happening. You are just factually wrong. Hashtag Arden too scared. Hashtag Team Ben.
The gap is closed.
I
love this conflict, though. This is wholesome conflict that I love.
I know.
5 pounds from the Fuzzy Logic. Holy Jeebus, that dog got so big. Hashtag Team Doggo. Yeah, he's gonna be big too. Like he's gonna be somewhere between like 40 and 65 pounds.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, he is noticeably bigger from the last time I saw you bring him on camera, which was like 2 weeks ago, maybe. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. He's huge.
$5 from Melatonin Ale. A friend in the National Guard is being deployed to Houston this weekend. She's broken up about it. Also, happy Pride. Hashtag Team Scaly Puppy, please. I will go get him, but I genuinely feel like if you are in the National Guard or the Marines or whatever, if you are being deployed to do something as atrocious as this, I realize, listen, I don't completely understand how the system works, and this is probably myopic, but quite frankly, I don't think the I'm just doing my job excuse is enough. It wasn't enough for the Nazis during the Nuremberg trials, and I don't think it's enough today. You have an obligation to fucking quit or to resign or to step down and say, I am not going to do this to my fellow Americans, and to be loud and vocal about it. I don't think, personally, I don't have any pity for someone who's like, I don't want to be deployed to Houston, but now I have to go oppress the free speech of protesters. No, you don't. You might lose your job and livelihood, but this is a so much bigger moment in the culture than your job or like, I just,
Yeah, this is part of why like I'm kind of happy to be booted. I don't want to be forced to do any of that. And so if I go out this way, it's kind of almost better. But yeah, she's grabbing Scaly Puppy. My puppy is still sleeping. But he's very cute.
There we go. Okay. So I don't have my headphones in, but this is Styx. He is a green forest dragon. He's a very sweet. Oh, come on, focus in on him. There you go. He's got those really cool blue lateral lines, and when he gets like upset or horny, his head turns bright red, like ruby red. It's beautiful. He is such a good boy. He is so handsome and well behaved. I wish he would eat a little better, but that's your Scaly Puppy content for the day. So
Scaly Puppy.
Back. Okay. All right.
I love that it's just so obvious when he's horny.
Oh yeah, he can't hide it. No. There's no privacy for him.
Imagine if humans were like that. I mean, kind of in some cases it could be, but what if it was like that for everybody, where your head just like turned blue or something when you were horny? Like Arden would be fucked.
Whoa, what's that supposed to mean? No, just kidding. I wish we have his girlfriend down here, and everyone said that the second they saw each other, they would fire up completely red, and they haven't done it yet. And so I'm a little like, did they not like each other? I don't know. It makes me sad. So we call them green forest dragons, Glenn, but the species is Colotes colotes. They're very plentiful. This guy was captive bred, and our other girl's captive bred, but they are captured from the wild a lot because they're so plentiful in the areas that they're native to. So, yes.
$5 from Domestic. Thanks for sharing your puppy. Hashtag Team Ben. I love this puppy. He's a little maniac when, like, it's during his nap time, but other than now, he is an absolute menace to society.
Then we've got $5 from AJ Bell. I'm the proud winner of the t-shirt design you drew for 2024 RFR. Everyone asks who drew it, and I proudly say a famous doctor did. Hashtag Team Dr. Ben. Oh, the last year's. Oh, yeah, that's right.
The RFR. Nice.
The weird, super weird drawings I got.
That's cool. It was the Shrek one. It was my awful Shrek picture.
I forgot I made those and sent them out to the people, but then I like checked that they were all like claimed, like the token for the free shirt was claimed, but I never heard anything about them. So that's really cool. I'm glad you got yours and that you're happy with it.
Super fun. I'm glad you like it because that drawing was a trip.
Oh, it's so awesome. They're so goofy, but I love that's really cool. It's nice to know that they're out there somewhere, you know? I'm like, oh yeah, someone does own that shirt. That is like in their clothing drawer. I wonder how often you wear it in public.
Proud of it. I just proud of it. Like what? $5 from Zereth Moonpaw. Hashtag Team Dr. Ben because the good boy is beat boy. Boys beat what? I don't know. Either way, good something about
it's for you.
Me. It's for me, and it's because I'm guessing it's because of my puppy.
Dr. Ben, cause the good boy is beat boy. Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Like a Backstreet Boy?
Yes.
Another $5 from Zereth. All right, host, you're now a furry. What's your persona? Hashtag Team Dr. Ben's doggo, and I guess Ben as well.
Mine is a rabbit opossum.
A rabbit or possum. I like that. Some people have said I would be a cat. I also kind of feel like I've seen on like Pinterest sometimes they'll have like they're like dragons, but they're not really dragons. They're like fuzzy, kind of wolfish looking creatures with like dragon horns. One of those. That'd be cool. Another 10 from Mo Scoville. Hashtag I done fucked up. Hashtag Team Arden. Thank you, Mo. We appreciate you coming through. You're the realist.
The realist Mo.
The realist Mo.
You got your name. 5 Canadian from Quantum Chaos. Fine, here's a real vote. Hashtag Team Arden. Oh, yeah, because you said the fence sitter one before.
That's right. And they're only voting for me because I do the Josie inside joke of calling them hashtag or Quantos Nachos.
Quantos Nachos.
Fuck you, Quantos Nachos. $5 Quantos Nachos, and just out of spite, hashtag Team Ben.
There you go.
How dare you?
See, that's how you fence it and get your votes through. You just send separate super chats. 5 Canadian from Grace5769. Hashtag Team Arden, girls rule, boys rule. Also, shout out to Epic, the musical. Give it a listen, y'all. It's fantastic. Odysseus in musical form.
Oh, cool.
Maybe I shall.
Heard of it. Is this like a new thing that's out?
I think it's a new one. Yeah.
Does this have Audra McDonald in it? I feel like I saw pictures of that. I might be confusing something else though. Cool. Check it out. Blah, blah, blah. $5 from Stephanie. Oh, wait, did I read the last one? Oh, no, it was you. $5 from Stephanie Helms. No more sewing today. Hashtag Team Ben.
Thanks, Steph. We appreciate Steph.
Thanks, Steph.
We mostly appreciate Steph today because she picked me and not Arden. 50 Canadian from Sean F. I'm a cis man, deconstructed ex-Christian, and now atheist and secular humanist. Can I live with you on that island? There's no intelligent life on this continent. Keep up the good work. I love this show. Hey, be nice. There's Canada and Mexico. I guess Mexico is technically Central America, but there are other countries that aren't ours.
And then we've got $10 from Mr. Boricua 10 again. Oh my God.
Oh.
We got so close. So close to freedom.
Yeah.
British? Oi, Dr. Ben. Fancy a little British English, bruv, innit? It is your chance of putting on your British eyes. Finds bait. Have a little green tea on me, laddie. You've earned it. Cheers, bruv.
We need to
Fucking
send
kill
these
me.
clips to Katie. We need to send these clips to Katie. Just like spam her with them.
Just kill me on my life right now.
$10 from Sentient Tree. Let's get the producer a comfier chair, but also hashtag Team Ben.
You get 2 points because I didn't do yours last time. My chair is actually quite comfy. It is like the Amazon Basics, but it's got the like ergonomic design. And I had that old gaming chair I had for like 3 or 4 years, and it was so uncomfortable and really beaten up. And so I just got like a really cheap
S-Racer?
Yes, the S-Racer I had.
Yeah,
Remember it there years ago, at one point it was like you, Forrest, maybe even Josie and myself and someone else
with
all were like
S-Racers.
And like one of us had like 3 of them. It was like super ridiculous. Yeah.
It wasn't I feel like Forrest was the one that had 3 S-Racers.
Yeah, I think it was.
He would. Because he would do something ridiculous like that.
Speaking of Forrest, by the way, you guys, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time, Forrest and I are doing a Cus I Wanna because we are both speaking at the Secular Student Alliance Convention in Cincinnati next month. And registration ends a week from tomorrow. So we are doing a whole event to talk to people about trans issues for the calls, but also to drive you guys, if you are in the area or can get there that weekend, to go register to see the conference. It's Secular Student Alliance is amazing. They are helping like foster the next generation of secular activists. So I definitely support the work they're doing. And they were really gracious in inviting me to speak. And so, yeah, Forrest and I are going to do that. So make sure you go to the channel and, hit the notification for that episode. And then the last super of the day, $5 from Doodoo McStinkface McPoopy Pants, Awful Stinky Poopy McGee. How much would it cost to have a formal debate on Growlithe versus SV on a match channel? I'm willing to do it. Hashtag Team Ben, hashtag Arden's a pussy. Oh my God. Jessica's like,
escalating.
I know, we're getting serious. I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be a pretty high price tag if you're gonna have Matt do that on his channel, since all of his subscribers are gonna be like, what the fuck am I watching?
I mean, I'll host it on my channel, but probably no one's gonna watch it.
In that case, still high price tag. Because
still
listen,
high price tag for Arden.
I got bills to pay, girl. Listen. All right. And with that, Ben has totally slaughtered me. And it seems like the topic we have is bottoms must duel for tops by a narrow 4-point lead.
I love this for you.
Okay. Bottoms must duel for top. Are we still live?
Yeah, I think we're still live.
I'm so sorry, chat. Please respond if you hear me. The stream button on my streaming software went yellow because I hit tab to try to switch to a different thing instead of just clicking on it. Okay, we hear you. We're back.
There's a hiccup, but we're back. Okay.
Scared me. All right. So sorry. Not trying to get out of this. Host right is the winner here. And honestly, though, I think I should be able to hit tab to go to the next category on this. It's kind of annoying that it doesn't work that way. Loser is me. All right. Let's charge up this fucking clock. All right, everybody. 3, 2, 1, and go. All right, listen. If you're gay, we've all been there. Listen, all of us like to get a little lovin' a little early in the morning, but sometimes you meet another gay person, you start to have feelings, you realize we have the potential to be something wonderful, and then comes the sex talk. You find out you're both bottoms. What do? Well, you don't just try to figure it out. You don't just awkwardly sit there where one of you's waiting to make a move and the other's waiting to make a move and neither of you do it because you're both fucking little bottoms with your little pleading face emoji and the little touching fingers because you're too sensitive to take any control. Instead, we must duel for tops, right? This is how tops are going to be getting all of their state assigned bottoms in the future. We don't need state assigned girlfriends, but we do need state assigned bottoms, and that's going to come from duels. And we're just going full Hamilton rules. You need a revolver pistol. You take 10 steps. You turn around, and you fire right into their gut. You know, the more bloody, the better. You got to have a doctor and everything there, so we can make sure everything is healthy, and whoever survives, if anyone, gets to be topped. And that is, I mean, I've got 40 seconds here, but do you need more argument than that? How do you get tops? You shoot the other bottoms in a agreed upon duel. I think it's pretty straightforward. You can bring swords if you want. However, there are special rules because sword fighting is kind of a two tops activity. Two bottoms can't really do sword fighting together. It's kind of awkward. So if you're going to bring swords, one of you has to at least be versed. But, you know, I think really this is you just got to bring guns. Like, be honest, like, put them down. If you're going to fight for the top, you got to fight for the top. If I were a top, I wouldn't feel like I was fought for if somebody didn't bring an actual weapon to the fight. So thank you. That is my case.
Beautiful. Yeah,
thank you.
State allowance of bottoms.
Yes. We need the state to intervene to give us our bottoms. With that, everybody, I don't remember if I had sorted out who it's going to be next week. I am away, and that means I won't be hosting or producing next week. So I don't remember. I'll have to double check the schedule, but it will get posted shortly, and you guys can check that out. But again, make sure you click the bell to check out Forrest and I on Cus I Wanna tomorrow. So, Ben, you got anything you want to add or plug before we sign off?
No, all good.
Right on.
Have a great day, everyone.
Well, thank you to Jess for call screening. Thank you to all of our awesome mods for keeping chat sane and safe. Thank you to the callers for calling in and participating in the discussion. And make sure you go to patreon.com/calltheline to support us, to help us keep the lights on and keep all these shows coming your way. We appreciate you guys so much, and we will see you all next week. Bye. Later, losers.